All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Instruction Work Group meeting dated October 3rd, 2022. We do have one public speaker, and I'm sorry, your name?
Rob.
Rob, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll keep it quick. You guys may have heard me on Wednesday. I'm back today just to try and make something right that was done wrong. Our custodial and maintenance staff got left behind, even though we're just behind as much money as other groups. We're just as shorthanded as everyone else. And the number that we're hearing is around 7 million to include us in the $5 an hour raise. And I'd just like somebody to recalculate a little bit, because the number that we come up with 230 people at $5 an hour, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year is $2,392,000. Plus, of course, the taxes and the percentage on that, which at the most would bring it up to like $2,775,000.
Times that by 3 because you're 24 hours a day. You see what I'm saying?
But we're not getting paid.
Yeah, but it's still the shifts, you know what I'm saying?
No, I don't. I don't know what you're saying, because why would you don't pay people 24 hours a day, even if people work 24 hours a day? It's not 230 people working 24 hours a day. It's 230 people total with all the trades making $5 an hour. They only work 8 hours a day. Now they work a lot more than 8 hours a day because we're making up for all the shortfalls. But no, it's not. I don't understand that. Yeah, so we just, I left the troops at home, and I came down and I said that I'd just bring it up again, and we just want to, make sure that it's on the table and people are looking at it. We got a lot of hurt people, people that have a lot of time in this district, people that are making just $1.50 more than a guy that is 21 years old, just started with the district, and the woman that I was speaking with earlier has 24 years on, given more than half for life, well more than half for life to the district. We're hurt. We're feeling undervalued for sure. So I know I can't get any answers tonight, but I wanted to bring it up, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And you guys have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public speaking. Next order of business is approving the minutes from August 15th, 2022. So I move to approve the minutes from the Instruction Work Group meeting dated August 15th, 2022. Can I please get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 7-0. Another slate of minutes to approve from September 6th, 2022. I move to approve the minutes from the Instruction Work Group meeting dated September 6th, 2022. Can I please get a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor? All right, we are done with that. So now we're going to jump into our wellness update for the past month. Nurse Carrie, are you with us tonight?
I am. Good
Thank you.
evening.
Take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So just giving an update over this past month. What we are seeing with our COVID tests or our COVID positive case numbers is we peaked about 2 weeks ago, and our numbers kind of have been steadily coming down since then. One of the questions I've been getting asked a lot of from our public and other people is why our case rate looks different than the Dane County Public Health Dane County website when you look at that. And I just wanted to make sure that people understood the differences between our data. So Public Health Madison Dane County data only reports out the PCR positives. So that is what's included in their daily case counts. When we report out our daily case counts, we report out any known positive cases. And so that could be by PCR, that could be by rapid test done at one of our testing locations. It could also be done by a reported home positive test. And so our numbers are going to look really different when you look at them compared to public health, Madison-Dane County. But we are doing well, and I'm expecting this next week, our numbers should be down again. So 2 weeks of kind of steady decline for us. Again, we have a very robust way of collecting and doing case finding and case investigation. We have a screener process. There's a lot of effort that's going into our identification of our positive cases through our COVID response team. Some of the other new and exciting things just to highlight, we were able to join in the home rapid antigen testing program through DHS. And so we received a shipment of 3,888 home rapid test kits. Each test kit contains 2 tests per kit. And many thanks to our wonderful building services team for getting those redistributed out to our health offices. And those have begun. We've started to distribute those to make sure that everyone has equitable access to home rapid antigen testing. We also started our work with backup with the Public Health Madison-Dane County in regards to COVID pop-up vaccine clinics. And so we held our first one with our Leopold Food Pantry on September 20th. I believe that's a bi-weekly food pantry. We're also in works with SSM Health to really look at potentially offering some more vaccine clinics. So we're excited about that. We continue to use our screening app for identifying all of our cases. We're getting lots of feedback. It's a more robust app that gives you kind of direct answers in regards to your responses that you give. And it's very dependent on which symptoms people select as well. And we've been getting lots of great feedback. And so we've been updating that kind of on a weekly and as needed basis. And again, just a reminder to everyone that we really are asking anyone that meets the criteria for COVID symptoms that if they decline to do testing at that time, that we ask that they isolate home for 5 days, and then they're able to return to school or to work if they are declining testing and they qualify for a COVID test based upon their symptoms. And so we are continuing to work on filling our vacant positions. A lot of our vacancies were because of all of the additional ESSER positions that we had funded. And so on our memo, we put forth, I was really excited. We have basically almost filled all of our ESSER funded positions. And so we're really excited about that. And I am hopeful that come November 1st, we will be fully staffed in all of our health offices moving forward. So thank you for everyone for all of your energy and efforts with that. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Board Member Nichols?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Nurse Carrie. I really appreciated your report, and I was just curious. I did notice that you are planning to convert some of the contract tracers into regular COVID nursing staff. If I read the report correctly, it looked like you wanted to convert 3.0 FTE. It looks like that would be added to 4.0 FTE that we already have for COVID nursing staff. So I'm just wondering if you can talk about why the conversion. Is it because you're seeing less need for contract tracers, or you have a more critical need to have kind of full-time nurses in health services? So if you could just speak to that just a little bit.
Sure. So it's kind of twofold. We really have shifted away from like traditional contact tracing to where a lot of our staff are now calling people that are positive for COVID and are needing medical advice and in next steps and what they should do for their family. A lot of the questions that they get asked usually requires somewhat of a nursing background to answer if it's outside of the realm, and they have lots of questions in regards to that. And so we've found a lot of our seasoned contact tracers do a great job at doing that, but are still needing to require a nurse to follow up with the family because they have questions that are kind of outside of that area, and they may or may not have a healthcare practitioner that they feel comfortable asking those questions. And so we try to help guide them as best we can. The other wonderful thing about if we hire a nurse, they also have the ability to assist us with COVID testing and COVID vaccine administration and some of the other COVID work that has been really, our health office staff has really been sharing the brunt and burden of that load. And so we're really trying to look to offset so that we can get our school-based nurses back to doing their regular work and business and have really another team that can really focus on all of the COVID response requests that we're getting.
Great. Thank you for that. Can I just have one more follow-up related?
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I'm also wondering about, and thank you again for the updates on all of the ESSER funded positions. I am curious kind of what is current state with our kind of regular nursing vacancies and, you know, just, yeah, how things are going in terms of health services, health office coverage, and yeah, just how we're looking coming into October.
Yeah, October is still going to be a little bit of a challenge for us. We still have several schools that are without a nurse. And when I say several, I didn't pull the number recently. I want to say 5 or 6 schools that aren't fully staffed with nurses. We have done a lot of onboarding, but all of the positions that we have open, except for a little small portion of a West High School position, has been and an offer has been accepted. And so they're working through the onboarding process. And really exciting is we've also been able to recruit and retain some advanced practice level practitioners, which is something we're really excited about as well. And so oftentimes they have a longer contract, so they're not able to start right away. So we have about 5 or 6 new people that will be starting anywhere from, well, 2 started today. And then we'll have some through the last person to start is October 31st.
Okay.
So that's what I said, come November 1st, we'll be fully staffed. They'll still be orienting, but we should have the vast majority of all of our positions filled.
Great. So the last piece to that, thank you so much for kind of giving current state. In one part of your memo, it talks about the surge nurse support and that those surge nurses would help cover vacancies and ensure that there is coverage of the health office in elementary schools while the regular nurse attends IEP meetings and other student services support team meetings. I guess I'm curious for the schools that that are not fully staffed yet. How have you all been able to ensure that nurses are attending IEP meetings or other student support meetings?
Yeah, that's a great question. So all of our surge nurses were actually assigned a school. So they took on a school to fill a vacancy for the start of the year. So they stepped into that school nurse role for that particular school, as well as several of our nurse lead positions or nurse coach positions at central office also were assigned to support schools until the new staff could start in. So it's being covered either by surge nurses or by Doyle-based staff that are stepping in as the school nurse position.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Any further questions? Dr. Jenkins?
Yeah, I just want to take the time to thank Nurse Gary, one, stepping up in the role, and two, being part-time nurse, part-time HR person. She has been out there beating the bushes, trying to get nurses. I've met a lot of the new individuals, and I met one of the twins the other day at the school as I've been going around to the schools, and just the excitement from those individuals joining the team and your efforts, along with a few others in HR. I just thank you. Behind the scenes, it's been a very big job to staff our nurses, and particularly the nurses that we placed on as are creating more openings there. And she's just been going at it relentlessly to try to get those positions filled. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nurse Carey and Dr. Jenkins, for that. All right, moving on to item 5.1, building upon and expanding our college and.
Board Member Castro, may I ask some questions?
Oh, I'm sorry, I see your hand now.
That's
Board
okay.
Member Simpkin?
Thank you. Nurse Carey, I have a few questions for you. We had talked, it was a little over a month ago, I think, about the move to strongly encouraged mask wearing. And I'm wondering how that is playing out in our schools, both among our staff and among our students.
Yeah, I don't have any really strong data in regards to that as of right now. I think it ebbs and flows with different schools, different ages. And some of that is easier being able to tell by the number of people that are requesting masks. So we have some schools, we have one high school in particular that requested 10,000 masks. And so we know we're having huge requests for masks being delivered out to our schools. So I think there's some different ways that we can capture that data, but I don't have like a good sense of that to be able to report out to you right now.
Okay. Do you see, when you look at the numbers of staff who have been out with positive COVID cases, are you seeing, what kind of numbers are we seeing right now?
Oh, again, I would probably have to go back to the data because I didn't really prepare for that question today, but it's the vast majority of our positives are typically students. And that's kind of always been the case. We definitely had more staff the first couple of weeks that we were reporting because we didn't have students necessarily in our building, or we had, the delayed start. So some of our early data is very heavily staff, whereas as school district school has gone on, the number of students that are testing positive, it's more than the staff. I just don't have those numbers right off the top of my head to tell you, but you can easily get that data on our website, I believe.
Okay, that's broken down there based on.
Yeah, I'd have to look at that again, but I can get that for you.
Okay, I'll check it out also.
I report it out weekly to our metrics team, so it's in that data as well.
Okay. My follow-up question is really not necessarily to you, but perhaps to Ms. Cardine. I'm wondering how we're staffing those absences, and if absences due to staff having COVID is having a notable impact in our classrooms.
So right now, we're not asking if they have COVID, depending on the absences. So we haven't collected that data for the sub office. So when they put it in the front line, there's nowhere to put in. They just put an illness. They don't specify what the illness is.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Board Member Simpkin. Okay. And so now moving on to our next item, 5.1, which is expanding college and career and academic opportunities for our students. Excited to dig into how we are raising the level of learning and building the confidence of our learners in school. So take it away, Cindy.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Board Member Castro. I'm super excited to engage in this conversation tonight with many of my colleagues. So I'm going to spend a minute just naming who will be in this presentation with me so that you know in advance. So first we have the Associate Superintendent of High Schools, Mr. Ennis Harvey. We have Kaylee Jackson, who is over curriculum and instruction. We have Mary Jankovic, who is over our secondary programs and pathways. We have all of our 6 high school principals who will be joining us as well. And we also have Grady Brown from our research and innovation team that will be walking us through the data. If I missed anybody, I apologize. I will make sure when we pause for discussion that I introduce. We also have one of our students from East High School that's going to share a little bit of her experience. So I'm super excited to lift some student voice as well. Thank you, Jesse, for sharing the screen. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Can everybody hear me okay before I start doing a lot of talking? I see Laura nodding her head. Yes, thank you, Laura. Okay, Jesse, next slide, please. Thank you so much. So as we dig into the content tonight, I hope you will see how what we are preparing for next year to ensure our scholars have. You see how this is really helping us meet our vision that every school is going to be a thriving school. And as important, every one of our students is going to graduate college, career, and community ready. Next slide, please, Jesse. Also, I hope you will see in our content for tonight how we are really trying to realize all 3 of our goals, but definitely goal 1 and goal 3 hopefully will be apparent to you as we get into the content tonight. Next slide, please, Jesse. And our core values. I think our core values definitely will be ringing throughout our presentations that we have for you tonight, but more importantly, how these presentations go into action in our schools every day in order to make sure our students are graduating college, career, community ready. Voice is definitely something that was important in terms of what we are going to be talking about tonight. Next slide, please. And so what are we talking about tonight? So we have a few topics for you. The first topic is building upon and expanding our college and career opportunities. We will also be talking about our universal practices to address social emotional learning. Both of these are priorities for us this year. And we'll end with just a quick update on where we are with our strategic framework recalibration. Thank you, Jesse. You could go to the next slide. Excellent. Thank you so much, Jesse. So as we get into tonight's topic, why are we talking about the improvement of our coursework opportunities and expanding opportunities for our students? I want to draw your attention first to the left, which shows the 6 ways we identify students' decision-making for post-high school life. As they're thinking about their future, we know there's many different opportunities for our students to take that will lead them to post-successful high school opportunities and, most importantly, life-sustaining wages. That is a direct path into employment, a path into a 2 or a 4-year, a potential path into a gap year, a path into apprenticeship, military, and or job training. So as we're thinking about how important these decisions are, we know that what happens during the school day and outside of the school day for our students matters most. We see this as a direct connection to all of the work we're doing around early literacy and beyond, as that is a priority in order for students to be engaging in many of these opportunities we will talk about tonight. And as we're coming out of the pandemic, we're super excited to be able to get back to some of the great work we have started and great work that we have been doing over many years and accelerate that great work to ensure that all of our students are having the opportunities necessary to prepare them for this post-high school life. Our goal is to have every student eventually graduate with more than just a diploma in hand. We want them to graduate with early college credit and or an industry certification that leads them into a job, an apprenticeship, or even an associate of science. We really want to make sure that our students are gaining everything they possibly can while they're with us that's launching them into post-high school success. I want to name one other thing before I talk about some of the bullets on the slide. I think the other reason why this conversation tonight and eventually what the action will be beyond this conversation is so vital and important is because of a most recent article that I read in Madison 365 that was published on September 23rd. That article named the disparities that we still have in our city between white employees and Black employees as it relates to jobs in the business world. What they did mention is districts like Madison or the Madison Police Department have done a better job in ensuring that there's diversity in the workforce and ensuring that our Black people actually are holding leadership roles. But what it also said is we're not doing a good job across the board with that. And there's still great disparities in terms of who is accessing careers and jobs in Madison. And when we talk about the content of tonight's meeting, I want us to remember that this isn't just about what we're doing while we have our students. It is ultimately about improving our city as a whole, ultimately about ensuring that our students are leaving MMSD with life-sustaining wages to not end up in poverty, and also creating diversity in our workforce. If we can do a good job while they're with us, also ensuring that they have the employability skills to be most marketable when they leave us, we are not only benefiting our students, but we're benefiting our entire community. I think that's something very important for us to think about. We've been doing this work for many years. And again, what we are trying to do is to ensure that the coursework we provide in our high schools or opportunities for our students while in high school are all aligned to those opportunities that happen post-high school. We also want to ensure that we're deeply thinking about opportunities that earn high value certifications. What is the labor market telling us are the job demands out there? How are we thinking about certifications that lead to life-sustaining wages? How are we thinking about work-based experiences tied to coursework that are going to benefit our students, not only while we have them with us, but more importantly, after they leave MMSD? We want to make sure that we are improving our advising and our opportunities for students to reflect on where they are going after they leave us and ensure that we're setting them up for success. And then in addition, we also want to think about those coursework opportunities where we want to expand based on the amazing new spaces our high schools are getting, based on the amazing opportunities we have been provided from the community based on that referendum. So we want to ensure that we're thinking about that as well. Next slide, please, Jesse. So what you will see on this slide is just an example of that in terms of the spaces that are starting to happen in our high schools. And you'll see later on in our presentation how we're thinking about making sure we're maximizing those spaces for the types of coursework they were designed for, how we're thinking about those based on the student voice we've heard, what our families desire, and what those spaces are able to accomplish. Next slide, please. So when we think about this concept of expansion of advanced coursework specifically, I wanted to re-ground us all in the definition of advanced coursework. We define advanced coursework in MMSD as courses such as honors, advanced placement, art and career and technical education, level 3 and 4 courses, and early college credit. We also know that the research tells us that students that take advanced coursework while in high school are more likely to graduate on time, more likely to enroll immediately into college, more likely to graduate college with less debt, really important factor, and more likely to have a higher earning wage than comparison groups. So we know there's great benefits to expanding these opportunities for our students. Next slide, please, Jesse. And before we spend the rest of the night talking about what we are planning for 23-24, which I know may seem a little crazy knowing that we are just 4 weeks into this school year, but we know that planning for next year at this time of year is critically important. I wanted to spend just a few minutes focusing on a few of the celebrations that are happening this year that will also benefit for what we're trying to do next year. So just as a reminder, we trained over 1,000 secondary staff at the beginning of the year on our early literacy and beyond priority, which was focusing on avid critical reading. Those 1,000 plus staff members will engage in that learning again next Friday, the 14th. We're continuing and have been able to get approval from DPI to recognize East's Barbershop program as an accredited course. This is a huge opportunity. We've been able to work with the person that started this East Barbershop to become that certified teacher of record. We're also continuing our ACT preparatory opportunities. We've seen some real promising data in the cohorts thus far. We know this is an important aspect of our students becoming college, career, community ready. This summer in August, we sent a number of our teachers, many high school teachers, to professional learning on hip hop music pedagogy. We're super excited about this based on our priority of the arts and what we're learning from that Summer Arts Academy. We also purchased additional instruments for our high school students and staff. Our Memorial High School, which is now Vel Phillips Memorial High School, decided to do a full day all school interactive curriculum lesson opportunity on learning about Vel Phillips. It was an amazing opportunity where every single student was engaged in this learning and every single staff person was engaged in this. And finally, another celebration, which really ties well into our conversation tonight. We had one of our own students from La Follette High School, Tay Dean, where she was able to take advantage of an internship with EUA, who are the architects that are working with Findorf on our referendum work. So we're really trying to cultivate every partnership we can and have our students be able to take advantage of these types of opportunities. So it was a real great experience to see. Next slide, please, Jesse. At this time, as we're continuing to see where we currently are, to know where we're going, I'm going to turn it over to Grady Brown, and he's going to walk us through the data on the next few slides.
All right, thanks, Cindy. Well, we're going to continue that grounding. This time we're going to look at a little bit of data here as we think about advanced coursework. So first, we want to look at who's participating in those advanced coursework opportunities. And what we were looking at here is the trends over the last 5 years. And we saw that there was some continual increase in the percent of our high school students who are participating in one or more advanced coursework. In 21-22, over 2/3 of all of our students were participating in advanced coursework. We also wanted to call out students who are receiving IEP services, as well as our Black or African American students. And we saw continual increase among those students. Almost half of our students last year who identify as Black or African American were taking an advanced coursework in high school. If we can continue on the next slide, we'll expand that look out here and just show all the demographic groups. And what we saw was a similar trend. We saw that over 5 years, that gradual increase across all demographic groups. And this was spanning between 3 to 10 percentage points. That largest 10 percentage point increase was among our students who are identified as Black or African American. But we can see across all the demographic groups that we saw that similar trend of increased participation rates. And if we go to the next slide, after we looked at who was participating, next we wanted to see what those opportunities were, what types of advanced coursework opportunities were our students engaging. And here we're looking at the number of semester courses that are taken by our high school students over the last 5 years. And you'll notice that that trend looks very, very similar to our participation trend. As participation increased, we had more students that were taking more semester advanced coursework. And here we're just showing the different opportunities that a lot of our students had to engage in a multitude of advanced courseworks. AP and earned honors continue to make up the largest bulk of those advanced courseworks, but we saw a lot of changes throughout the last 5 years. College credit increased over the last 3 years and now account for about 12% of our advanced coursework. So just some high level looks that kind of continue that grounding as we're thinking about these advanced coursework trends. And I think I'll pass it back to Cindy.
Thank you so much. I'll also note that we will pause after this presentation to have a discussion and to take questions. So thank you. Some additional data that I wanted to make sure we highlighted as well is that through our Early College STEM Academy, we have had 49 students that have earned an Associates of Science. So just a reminder, that means students are graduating with 2 degrees in hand upon high school graduation. They have their high school diploma and they also have their Associates of Science. Pretty amazing. And of that, so 168 students that have also been in the Early College STEM Academy have been able to maintain a 3.5 GPA or higher. That's in college coursework, and they have earned their Phi Theta Kappa. We've had a lot of success with our dual enrollment through our Madison College Academies. We had 10 students last year that completed their Fire Academy certificate, and we have approximately 22 this year. Students are taking coursework in Fire Recruit and EMR. So again, a great opportunity for future pathways for them. We had 24 students last year earn their CNA, which also is an amazing opportunity. That means when they graduate high school, they can go directly into the workforce because they have earned that certification. We have about 30 students this year that we believe will graduate with their CNA as well. Some of the other things in terms of that data specifically, we have increased by 16.5% the number of students that are taking Start College Now and our early college credit program this year. So as we continue to improve our own advising efforts and our communication efforts, we're seeing these numbers change. As we continue to share with students and families the benefits of early college opportunities, we're seeing these numbers increase. So it's really great. We're also seeing that right now we have 21 students in youth apprenticeship. This is one of the highest numbers we've had in many years, even pre-pandemic years. And some of the areas that students are doing their apprenticeship in are architect, construction, agriculture, the health science, manufacturing, and automotive. And we have about 40 students, I believe, that are interested in this area for next year to do a youth apprenticeship. Just a reminder for youth apprenticeship, students have to work at least 450 hours their senior year. So they are really getting on the job training while also finishing up their high school degree. One additional thing that I will mention before we get into the other slides is that in addition to some of the amazing things happening this year, we have put forth some requirements for our staff to engage in their own learning of modules. One is around African American studies and one is around our Native American studies as we think about how we need to improve in beyond what Act 31 requires, and as we think about how we continue to become an anti-racist school district. These are 2 additional things that I want to lift that we can celebrate. So I'm going to turn it over to Kaylee to mention a little bit of what we've heard from our scholars in terms of what they want.
Thank you, Cindy. So last year, we began a number of input sessions for our academic plan. And our scholars told us exactly what it was that they needed from us in order to be college, career, and community ready. And what we heard from them were themes that were consistent regardless of student group and regardless of the schools that we visited. They told us that they wanted more experiential learning opportunities, that they wanted more hands-on experiences connected to the real world. And in doing this, it gives our scholars more hands-on experiences and provides them with an opportunity to reflect and to really gain those professional practices and skill sets and insights into their own skills, their own passions, and their own values. They also told us that they wanted more direct advising and counseling on what opportunities exist when they do leave high school. And so one of the things that we're doing is these senior seminar classes, but there's still more work in order to help counsel our scholars on their next steps. And then, of course, they also told us that they wanted arts embedded and integrated into those core classes to continue to build on those skill sets and that level of creativity and self-expression. I'll pause here and invite some of our high school principals to come on and share what they're seeing in their buildings as well.
Are you there, Kaylee?
I'm here, Matt.
Matt Henderson, Principal, Memorial High School. Just a couple of things just from my perspective that I've seen as of late. And I think the research is clear when we're looking at what we have for students and options later on, that we want to make sure that we are providing very robust opportunities. I can speak personally to some of the students that I've seen have gone through some of the apprenticeships and internships, specifically our Fire Recruitment Academy and our CNA. Knowing those students as they were as freshmen and sophomores, and then seeing them when they're junior and senior year in these programs, they are just, it's amazing the turnaround and change. And so, you know, for us to provide more opportunities, I can only imagine seeing our students excel. As far as even the direct advising, we know that the opportunities out there are extraordinarily robust and I think overwhelming. I'm speaking personally from having a student just graduate last year. And I think we definitely are doing our students a disservice if we do not step up our game when it comes to more of the advising and formalizing much of that at the high school level. I mean, we do well, but again, looking at all the options there, they're much different than they were years ago. And I think we just have to step that up. So I'm very excited about moving forward with this work.
I just want to speak a little bit, not specifically about the experiential learning opportunity, about the barbershop program. Eventually, I'd like to see it to be an experiential learning opportunity. But so many students are interested in our barbering program. We've actually, last year we had one class, this year we have 2 sections, and we've actually doubled the number of actually quadrupled the number of students. We've increased the cap. Our barbering shop, that's something that students are interested in. They've asked for that, and it is a skill that is definitely marketable. While they won't earn their barbering license here at school, maybe eventually they will be able to do that. They are starting to get that experience, and others have also asked that there be an increase. Also, just like our CNA program, that's been longstanding, as Cindy has mentioned, that our students will leave here with their CNA certification. And I've actually seen students out in the community where my dad's in an assisted living. I have former students that are there taking care of my father at the moment. So, excuse me, someone's knocking at my door.
Hey, everybody, hello, this is Matt from La Follette. I also want to just piggyback on some of Matt Hendrickson's points. I too am really excited about this direction. I was at a luncheon and I got to meet the executive director of the Madison Area Builders Association, and had a chance to talk with him. He actually came out to La Follette with 2 actual home builders here in town to look at our facility and to talk through like what their needs are. The community is ready for this. Local businesses are ready for this. They need skilled tradespeople desperately bad. I'm working with Cindy and Mitch Starosik to really like retool our course sequence and really focus more on home building here. So there's just like tons of opportunity and tons of potential partnerships as well that I'm super excited about as we begin networking and working together. So I just wanted to say the future looks really, really bright in this area. Thank you.
I'm just going to see if Dan Kiega wants to chime in at all before.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Please. I cannot let this opportunity pass me by. Good evening, everybody. New principal at Madison West High School. I've grown up in Madison, And over my time here in Madison, have come to realize the gem that we have in places like Madison College and the opportunities that presents. And I'm excited, even though I'm new at West, at really being able to sell our teams, our counseling team on the gem that we have that is right here in Madison College. So many of our students are leaving us with the mindset of we need to go to college, but our goal as a district is to make them ready for the community and careers. And when I see this presentation and this initiative, that is our opportunity to really start doing that work of bolstering those career opportunities right here in high school. So I'm excited about starting that work and being a champion of that work, and seeing what we can do in the next 3 to 5 years. Thank you.
Wonderful. Major thank you to our high school principals for sharing with us tonight and sharing your experiences. Next slide, please, Jesse. And so this is the start of the work. How do we get to this end goal where we have, where we are truly meeting our mission of every child being prepared for college, career, and community? We start right away in 9th grade with high expectations for everybody, for all. That includes all of our student groups. That includes our Black students, our Brown students, our English language learners, our students who have IEPs. Our goal is that every 9th grader will take an advanced course that is rigorous and that prepares them for college, career, and community. We know that Gloria Latson-Billings has told us that one aspect of culturally responsive teaching is holding all students to high expectations. And we know we do that in day one, and we can design that by the course offerings that we are giving to our students. Next slide. I'll pass this over to Mary.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mary Jankovich here. So I have the opportunity of continuing on what Kaylee was talking about around career opportunities and lifting the fact that Madison MMSD is more than just getting a diploma. So we've got some expanded targeted early college opportunities. Within Madison College, we are so very excited to say that we are in the process or in the phase stage of having the opportunity to have a new teacher education academy. This will be a 2-year program for our starting in 11th grade, and we're super excited. We have the expansion of the CNA participation. So we heard Ms. Green on earlier slides mention that our data is showing us that in 2022, we had 24 students, and this year we're really happy to say that we have 30 students within our cohort. We have enhanced fire and EMR that have jumped from 10 to 22 students this year. We're also very excited to say this will be the first year that we are starting a summer college program within Madison College. So this is a way for students to not only continue their education, but also explore what it might be to be on a college campus, taking college classes, and have the choice and have the ability to take early college opportunities. We have our continued CTE college expansion with our supplemental coursework for youth apprenticeships and expansion of our in-house dual credit. We have the continuation of our early college STEM academy and the increased internships of experiential learning opportunities. I know prior Cindy had said that during this slide deck, we were really lifting things like strategic framework #1, goal #1, and goal #3, but I'm really kind of going to zone in here on goal #2, where the district and every school is in a place where children, staff, and families thrive, talking about our increased internships and our experiential learning opportunities by cultivating and growing business and industry partnerships to support and partnering with youth employment network. We know in doing so, we can diversify our workforce, as Ms. Green had mentioned before. We can break down disparities within our workforce, impact, which is something our community desperately needs. And we can be the drivers for our workforce and community. So thank you. Jesse, could you go to the next slide? And I have the honor of introducing a lovely student from East High School that is in the health and science pathways. Jessica, you were here with us, right? I think I scrolled through and saw you before.
Yes.
All right. So Jessica, I'm going to let you take it away and tell everyone about your experiences within youth apprenticeship.
All right. Hi, guys. So I am a current junior at Madison East High School. So currently I'm a youth apprentice at UW Health Hospital, and the one on the east side. And I am currently in the radiology unit in CT specifically. So I've been working there for about a month now, and it's been really fun. So basically what I do is I'm bringing back patients and I'm setting them, I set up the table for them and I put them on the table. And when they have a scan that they need to drink contrast, I prepare the contrast for them and I answer any questions that I can. And so far I've really been liking the Youth Apprentice program because I've said that I wanted to go into like radiology, but like I wasn't so sure. And like seeing something from like a patient view is completely different than like being the like behind the scenes kind of, because as a patient you don't really like see what like you have to like go through to like get all the scans and stuff. So I feel like just doing this program has like helped me a lot. Also I feel like a lot of students like aren't so aware of this program because either they like don't get as much as information as they do, because I have a friend who's currently doing the program, but she didn't like really know much about it because she isn't in pathways, and I found out through pathways. And I mentioned it to her and I gave her like the contact info of who to like reach out to, and she's doing it as well and she's been liking her experience too.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Jesse, next slide, please. All right, continued education and the expansion of our CTE. So we plan on expanding the total number of credit available while increasing our intentionality. So increasing the rigor within our CTE pathways and to limit the standalone CTE elective courses. We have the development of new and enhanced program based on our labor market. We mentioned barbering before, personal self-care hosted by East High School, the redesign of our early child education, researching new health science programs in sports medicine, EKG tech, and pharmacy tech, and reinventing, in middle school CTE. So thank you. And I turn it back over, I believe, to Miss Green.
Miss Jackson.
Oh, excuse me, Miss Jackson.
All right, so what do we want to do about improving our advanced placement courses? As Cindy shared before, our students engaging in advanced placement courses, as we know, sets the stage and puts them in a position where they are earning college credit, which means then that they are saving time and also saving money on courses that they obviously would not need to pay for in college, which is a major win. So we want to continue to support equitable access. And what that means is making sure that there are courses that all of our students have access to. There are a few courses right now that are only at some of our high school sites, and we want to be sure that regardless of what site students go to, that they are able to engage in some of these courses. We also want to be sure that we have intentional supports so that students can be successful, right? So that means creating appropriate accommodations and modifications as necessary for students. And then we also want to be able to make sure that we are lifting our student voice. Our students are the wisest of the wise, and they tell us exactly what it is that they are interested in. And we need to be listening to that. So we have been following the updates on expanded AP options from the College Board. And we're currently considering adding a few of these courses. So for example, AP Human Geography, AP Pre-Calc, AP African American Studies, and AP Art. Some of these courses we already have access to, but we want to be sure that we are lifting them throughout all of our high schools. Next slide, please. And then the arts. We have learned a ton from the Summer Arts Academy. We had over 1,400 students who were involved in the Summer Arts Academy. And we continue to learn from them. We, this year, are going to be doing an audit of our current arts program. We're going to continue to solicit our student feedback on their engagement and the cultural relevancy of our arts program. We will adjust our curriculum in our arts program so that they are more culturally relevant. We also have added courses such as digital music, which is thanks to our referendum. And there may be courses too that we have to look at and sunset in order to have a more robust and culturally responsive arts program. We're continuing to expand our partnerships with community artists, working again to embed arts within core instruction. And we're also having conversations about adding additional AP arts courses. So we currently have AP music theory, but we are in initial conversations of adding additional courses such as an AP art studio and AP art and design. Next slide, please. Mr. Harvey.
Good evening, everyone. And it's Harvey here. In terms of strengthening early college, we took a two-pronged approach: in-school support and our communication strategy. One of the biggest things as we look to 8th and 9th grade transition meetings, we wanted to make sure that all students are aware of these opportunities and know about these from the moment they walk through our doors to have a seamless transition from middle school to high school. Additionally, we have identified some key levers to ensure that the proper supports are in place to achieve our goals, from college and career coordinators, enrollment liaisons, and enrollment specialists. Also, based on student voice, we will conduct individual and group advisement around early college and the opportunities they present. Lastly, ensuring that all students have a relevant classroom experience and community and connections that support college, career, and community culture. As we look at the communication strategy, we also want to make sure that our families are aware of these opportunities and are aware of the long-term benefits for their students. And so we want to have direct school counseling, college and career teams, email communication from the central office, as well as our post-secondary partners. We really want to take a step back and really make sure we were very intentional around providing those evening opportunities for parents and students to have those informational webinars. And lastly, enrollment support staff from UW and Madison College to push into the classrooms to ensure that we're providing that strategic support for our students to be successful. Next slide, please. As we look at the metrics for the 23-24 school year, we want to hold ourselves accountable to ensure that we're meeting the goals that we set out. We'll be looking at the following metrics. We want a 10% increase in early college courses enrollment through the 23-24 school year, a 10% increase of students identified as Black, ELs with an IEP, and free and reduced lunch accessing advanced courses. Additionally, 10% of our 9th and 10th grade students earn honors credit. 50% of our graduates in the class of 2024 will earn a credential of tangible economic value. We really want to make sure that we're providing our students with real post-secondary options that are beyond. When they're 24 and 25, can they be a contributing citizen to our community? 90% of our seniors who choose the college path enroll in a 2 or 4-year college the year after graduation. And lastly, 90% of the graduating seniors will report having a post-secondary plan other than undecided upon graduation. Next slide, please. Before I turn it over to my colleagues and hear their voices from the field, I want to take the opportunity to bring Dr. Hicks, who's our Associate Superintendent of Middle Schools, to this space to talk about that transition between middle and high school.
Thank you, Enes Harvey, Dr. Hicks, Associate Superintendent of Middle Schools. And the transition from middle school to high school is critical in terms of just being aware, knowing how to access things, what is available, and how to navigate a much larger system. As we continue to work towards, again, community college and career readiness, we have to leverage, even going back to elementary and making sure that we're aligned vertically in terms of what our expectations are, our communication, what it is that we want scholars to know and be able to do, so that when the time comes, they have had experiences that are enriched and really addressing their needs beyond just that grade level standard, but really looking at the long view as to where they can go and really communicating to them around what is needed for that to happen. I think as someone who has born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin, and from the system, we need to do better in terms of really providing access. I know oftentimes we talk a lot about what it is that we want to do. And I've been here a long time, and yet I've been working here in the district for over 30 years, and we're still not there. And the steps that we have made are small. And I think that collectively and collaboratively together, we can make it much more robust and intentional around ensuring that all of our scholars have access and opportunity to learning and outcomes, and are contributing members in our community and our society at large. So as we continue to work closely with the high schools, with the 8th grade transition, to 9th grade, and from our elementary schools from 5th grade to middle school, it's important and imperative for us to be able to ensure that we are providing experiences that are relevant, meaningful, and beyond the here and the now.
Thank you, Dr. Hicks. Are there any other colleagues, school principals that would like to give voice to this slide?
I'd like to add to what Dr. Hicks said. This is Dr. Abby, Deputy Associate Superintendent of Middle Schools. Want to add that to the transition plan, the important thing to also consider is, the alignment that teachers are doing between 5th and 6th grade and 7th and 8th grade, and 8th and 9th grade, so that, 9th grade teachers communicate with 8th grade teachers about what is needed for their students as they transition to 9th, and similarly for 5th and 6th grade. So that's really exciting in the transition plan. And I'm also really excited to hear that we are talking about, the CTE in middle schools, because that too helps us align, right? Middle and high schools together, exposing our middle schoolers to a wide array of careers, emphasizing that CTE is about career exploration and students finding their passion, and then you can almost see a scope and sequence happening between middle and high school, where students in high school are really digging in. So all this is really exciting, and it's awesome to be in middle school, where you get to transition students from in both spaces, from elementary to middle and middle to high. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Eby.
Yeah.
So before we just wrap up to have a discussion with the board, I wanted to see if any of our principals wanted to add any more content here, voice here, thoughts here for the board as we wrap up this portion.
Yeah, Cindy, I just want to add that, again, I so much appreciate this direction so very much. Your high schools, especially here at La Follette, like we are open to re-examining our curriculum to really look at our family consumer science programming, right? Our career and technical education programming, as well as our visual arts programming, to really move forward and take advantage of these opportunities for our students. So this is truly exciting, and there is a lot we can do to make some changes, especially when I think about our performing arts, what we'd like to do here, especially with the reworking of the beautiful Vandermillen Theater. So anyway, very exciting. I just want to just say thank you for this.
Thank you, Matt. I think he summed it up pretty well at least for me.
Next slide, please. So our timeline and our next steps, as we all know that in order to realize our dream, we must put some infrastructure in place. So as we prepare for the 23-24 school year, it is our goal to secure more staff that are qualified to teach dual credit, to strengthen communication and advising of opportunities, to explore that flexible scheduling, and how do we really pair those classes for our students to be successful at the next evolution, and continue to gather student voice, provide professional learning to our staff, principals, instructional coaches, as well as our department heads, and continue grow and cultivate relationships with businesses in our industries and identify budgetary implications for the expansion. Our long-term 3 to 5 year plans to ensure every scholar will graduate from MMSD with an industry certification, college credit, and/or an associate's degree. And next slide, please. And so before I turn it back to Ms. Green, I just want to say that it is our belief that our children are our greatest natural resource, and we must educate them to liberate them. Ms. Green, I yield to you.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Thank you, everyone. So right before we go into discussion, I just want to name a few things. I appreciate that we heard from our middle school associate superintendents, because I want to make sure we're clear while we're talking about high school opportunities tonight. All of the opportunities we need to be creating for our students are leading to these high school opportunities. So as we're thinking about our earliest babies, and as they come in and we're thinking about our focus on early literacy at the young grades, that is part of how we are going to realize these visions and these goals at this level. How we're thinking about how our middle school students are understanding who they are as they're exploring opportunities, as they're thinking about their academic and career planning. All of that is to position them for these opportunities at high school. And then what this means at high school in terms of how we are setting our students up to create a better Madison for all Madison residents, not just some Madison residents, but that this really is a game changer. To me, this is the work of how we become a district that educates to liberate. So I'm super excited about the conversation we're about to get into. We have our principals with us. We also have our student with us as well to be able to be part of this discussion. So Jesse, if you could take us off screen's chair, and Savion, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. So I see a few board members with their hands up. Board member Vandermillen, followed by board member Simpkin.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I appreciate it. One comment that I found interesting was the fact that we want kids to know what they're doing and be focused on their career, their future. I agree to a point, but when you're 17 and you're 18, I'd rather you have some curiosity in the world on what you're going to do than to wake up when you're 40 and say that you made the wrong decision, that you didn't get to experience a variety of courses in high school, that you didn't get to experience a variety of courses in college. and to get that chance. So I do worry about that. My main question here is, we've heard a lot on honors. We've heard a lot on advanced learning and what we consider advanced coursework. But I keep getting the same question asked to me, so I'm going to ask it, that I've been gotten emailed probably about over 1,000 times the past 3 years. And that is not an underestimation in the slightest. Will there be standalone separate honors in the course curriculum book next year?
I can answer that question. I can answer that question. Yeah, that is not our intent. I know we've been working since 2018, and that's why we're going to be building up. And we said we were going to pause last year. We're prepared right now to go through this year, doing the PD, engaging our students and our parents, and making sure that we can have a smooth transition into having various paths. It's just not for us standalone. You heard also the various certifications that's going to be available at freshmen. You heard us talk about increasing the space for arts. Our goal is that students are going to have advanced coursework, grade level expectation. We do know that we have experienced some things over these last 30 months. We have to position ourselves to raising grade level expectations for all of our students. And we have to really now get to the point where we're getting back to.
You cut out, I missed you.
Oh, no, I think you're. Can I be listening? Okay, yes, that was me. Sorry about that. Thank you, IT person. So anyway, we're raising it right now. It's time for us to lean forward. We've been talking about it for 2 years. I've been here. We've been in the pandemic. I think what we can do right now with our professional development, I think what we can do for all students, we've been talking about it. I heard from the teachers last year. You've heard from the teachers last year. And I think we've heard from our community, different individuals in our community. Some agree, some don't agree. But we're getting ready to develop our path forward for what MMSD is going to look like. We've talked about having specifics in terms of some of the metrics that we've considered that we're going to be making progress. And I know that we've talked about opportunity schools and different things that they've done. We've been looking at this behind the scene and still working as a staff. How do we move forward? So we're at a point right now, we're emerging from the pandemic, and it's time for us to lean forward together. You heard from our staff here tonight. That's the direction, unless something different. That's where we are. And I appreciate you, Board Member Vandermiller, putting that question out there. Our presentation tonight was about what we're looking to move, but we want to have voice. We're not done with voice. We're in the fall now. You heard Ms.
That was my fault.
Oh, okay.
You.
That me. You heard Ms. Green said clearly that we're doing this a year in advance. What we did last year, and we paused. And I think it was the right thing to do last year. We paused because we had not effectively taken the time to reinforce again what we started in 2018. We were right in the middle of the pandemic. We had a lot going on. We heard the wellness update. We're much further along now than what we were last year. We've learned a lot from the pandemic. And we know that it's time for Madison. If we're going to put ourselves in that position to be a destination district, we have to look at all of it. We talked about advanced learning, and I hope we don't isolate it to just one thing, standalone earners. You heard us talking about students being able to earn their certification, starting to address students in middle school, elementary. This is why we're doing the early literacy and beyond. All of this ties together for raising our expectations. So that's the short answer, but I look forward to us having engaging discussions about this and for us to be able to articulate out exactly how this will happen over the next months of preparing for it.
I would request, if possible, that actually, I would request that the board be able to, I'm not saying that we can't do other things like apprenticeships. I'm thrilled. And having other opportunities, again, also thrilled. I would like a vote on the standalone versus earned honors. I think our parents have shown that they, and asked for transparency on that issue. I think the board should be able to weigh in on that issue in a formal vote is my request. But may I also ask my other three questions?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sorry, gotta get my sheet up. You stated that there's going to be an African American AP history course. I am thrilled. It's about dang time that we've had. Can we please have a disability justice class or work on trying to create one?
I think this is my first time hearing that, Board Member Vandermill. That particular course doesn't mean that we can't look at it. We're willing to investigate everything, but I want to remind everybody, we started back last March 14th with our special session when we brought in, just so you know, first of all, we started 2018 on this journey. This is before I got here in terms of trying to create a more robust expectations for us as a district. But since I've been here, March 14th, we had a special meeting where we talked about the bringing in our consultants to help us go into the community. We've been listening to a lot of community meetings and getting feedback on a lot of things, and we're going to continue that. That's not over yet. I would definitely like for us, we're going to bring this back again next month. And as always, the board pleasure, if you want to take that, it hasn't been the case where the board has to vote on that. But if the board think that's serious enough issues to take a vote on it, then, you know, it's at the board's pleasure. But we're going to bring it back again next month. But I'm going to ask, though, whatever we take up, that we go ahead and do it in a time frame that can fit with the course selection, because the issue last year was that we did not do it soon enough so that we can inform parents, inform students, and we have a budget,
Right.
the board, as a board to approve, and that's going to impact our course selection sheets and what we're going to be doing too as well. And the schools are poised to move with it. So as a board, let's take that up.
I just want to say one thing. A big reason why the new AP course was added is it was the AP board that developed that course. So we might have to lobby the AP board for that, Board Member Vandermolen.
I would be glad to, because UW has the course that they've been trying to develop and want to get it into high school.
I think the entity is the AP board that you're looking for.
Yeah, I'll just chime in here real quick, Nikki. I know you have two more questions. So one, thank you, Board Member Castro. Yeah, the course that we are thinking about next year is from the College Board. It's a brand new course, so we're really excited about it. However, we also look at creating new courses often with our high school staff, and we have a process for that. So if there is a course that we are interested in exploring to put into the books, as you mentioned, Ms. Vandermeulen, we are happy to explore that. Whenever we add a course, we also talk about the need to close a course out, right? Because there are only so many courses that can be managed on the books. And then the other thing, I just want to go back to your first statement to make sure that we are all clear on when we talk about these opportunities for our students. These opportunities are not about boxing children in. I want to make sure we understand that. These opportunities create low risk opportunities for students to explore potential future careers. For example, if a student knows they are interested in CNA, they can take that. That is free of charge for them, right? As opposed to taking that after high school that comes out of their own pocketbook or their own family's pocketbook. We want children to explore, and we want them to earn the college credit that's associated with it. That college credit can transfer whether or not they go into that career field many times. We have this amazing opportunity for this education pathway, if you will. It's called the Ed Academy with Madison College. Right. Every child that chooses next year to potentially take those courses doesn't necessarily have to go into the world of education. We would love it. We want more teachers. We want to diversify our workforce, but it also is a low risk opportunity for students to explore college level coursework free of charge, determine if this is a career area that they want to explore further or not. So it is about ensuring that we are providing every opportunity for our young people while we have them to help them be set up for whatever that path is post high school.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm much relieved on that. I have two very quick questions. And that is on the ACT prep. I understand that we're doing it based on low income. I'm still worried about the fact that one, more and more colleges are excluding the ACT. And number two, that we're feeding into a giant testing industry that's $1 billion industry when our students could have better. That's just a comment, not a question. My other actual question is, I know that under, I think it's Act 31, but I'm not positive of the number, that we have to do Holocaust education, and I'd be interested in knowing where we're at on that at some point off time.
Yeah, we have an update for the board on that specific topic, as well as where we are with other components of Act 31. So that will be a future presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, and that's all I got. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Board Member Simpkin.
Thank you. I just want to start with some appreciations. I appreciate that we are talking about offering more rigorous experiences for all students. And I really appreciate that there is a plan to come together and create some continuity between middle school and high school experiences, and then high school and life beyond. There are two areas that I want to focus in on as areas that are popping out at me as concerns. The first is, I believe, an unintended consequence of some of the language that you used in this presentation when you're talking about all students taking these classes. There are students for whom it is, for whom getting through the school day is success for them. And there are students for whom, you know, working really, really hard to get a C is success for them. And there are students like my stepkids for whom being able to not get kicked out of school is a success for them. And so when we're talking about all students taking advanced coursework, what it feels to me as a step parent is that you're erasing my kids. And I don't think that was the intention, but I want to put that out there, that we have students with different needs and abilities for whom standard coursework is a challenge and is very appropriate for them. And we should be honoring that as well. Kaylee, I saw you came off.
Yeah, yes. No, and I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate an opportunity to respond to that. When I said all students, that is our goal. That is our goal, that all students are able to engage in high rigorous work. It is never the intent to erase any child, but rather to highlight and to see every child and their unique skills, interests, and abilities. It is our responsibility as an educational system and as educators to then identify when students struggle, because we know students struggle, to identify the appropriate supports so that students can and will access rigorous curriculum. I totally hear what you're saying, and please know that it is not an effort to erase students, but absolutely an intentional call out around what it is we need to do differently and better for all of our students to have access to rigorous quality instruction.
I heard what you said and I appreciate it. None of that would allow my stepkids to have been able to take anything like what you're describing. And there are students who just can't. And I just don't want us to forget about them or to leave them out of the conversation. So using the word all is very tricky here. And I just want to make sure we're not leaving out some of our kids.
I do.
The second piece that I want to talk about is on the other end of the spectrum, which is the standalone honors classes. I absolutely believe that if it is the intention of the administration to eliminate honors classes, then that needs to be a much wider, very transparent conversation with parents and with the board. And I'm not certain, based on what I just heard, if that's exactly what the intention is, but I personally would strongly object to the elimination of standalone honors classes. I'm thrilled to have earned honors classes be something that grows in our district, but that doesn't take the place of a standalone honors class. It's not the same thing. And I think that if we were to eliminate honors classes entirely, there is going to be a consequence, which is the students who rely on those classes in order to have an environment in which they are given information at the speed and the depth at which they require to meet their learning needs are not going to be able to have their learning needs met in our district. And I'm highly concerned about that. And so if that is the intention, which I think I just heard, then I will also call out that that needs to come back to the board as a wider conversation that has to be said explicitly. And we need to bring in families to know what their response will be to the elimination of standalone honors classes. And I will leave it at that for right now and pass it along. Thank you.
Yeah, let me jump in. I think, thank you, first of all, Ms. Jackson, in responding to Board Member Simpkin. Board Member Simpkin, I truly heard exactly what you said. I'm glad you went both ways with that. We as a community have been talking about this since 2018. It's been a national discussion, but we have to try to make sure that we meet all students. We don't want to erase students who may need, have a different learning need than your very own stepchildren or children who may have a need, could be in the same household. Some have a faster pace than others. Our job is to try to inspire students, inspire them, meet their passion, take learning as it has been, hasn't worked for all students, period. If they're in the same classroom, they're in different classrooms. And we do have to figure out as a district, it's the journey that we've been on. There are a lot of things that we have to consider. And I do think it needs to be a very open conversation. And Board Member Vandermeulen earlier asked about the board voted on the direction in which we're going. And just not even just voted on it, what's the discussion that we're having in our community? That needs to be a very open, very transparent conversation. I said it started in our district in 2018. We were continuing it last year. We paused because we had not given enough. We felt like time at that particular point to have everybody moving along. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And no child, when we say no child should be left behind. Be it a child that just pushes for more, a child who needs less and need more social emotional building of the whole child. So I just want to say publicly, thank you for bringing it up. And we have children in the same household, a parent, have one child that needs one thing, another child that needs another thing. But we should never be at a point satisfied with giving children less than grade level expectations so that they can transition post-high school into a career or into college, or whatever they choose to do, they should be able to follow their passion. And as for our data, does not dictate that we have been just in terms of how we have educated all of our children. The disparities are seriously there. Everything in the research also supports that we must raise expectations and also the supports. You can't raise expectations and not necessarily the support to help everybody. So sorry for that long response, but I just want to say I see you and I hear you and I appreciate it, and we will be coming back to the board with this discussion.
I just want to point out that this discussion right here is also an act of us talking about it, because we talked about it last year and we talked about it the year before that too. So this is, it's not like this came out of nowhere. So I just want to talk about that. But any more questions? Board Member Simkin.
No, I'll put my hand down. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Nichols, followed by Board Member Gomez-Schmidt.
Great, thank you so much, Chair. And thank you so much to the team presenting tonight. Much appreciations. So I want to start with my first question. I do have a few. My first question is related to the data that you shared tonight. The curiosity that I'm holding is whether there is a process or an opportunity to show the data in a way that would give us a better sense of students who are in college, kind of college-bound prep programs, students who are now opting in to some of the newer opportunities that have been created, and kind of seeing maybe if there were like a slice, a different data slice that might help us get a better sense of that 68% and the other percent of students who are not engaged. And the reason I'm bringing this up, and maybe I'm not being clear, so let me just say it out loud, is there have been college preparation programs and readiness programs, as you already know, like AVID, like People, that have really been historically game changers for many students of color, and particularly first generation college students. And those programs have also encouraged students to take advanced coursework and to really challenge and stretch themselves. And so I'm curious when I see the data, how many students, for instance, in a freshman class across the high schools are in a program like that, and also taking advanced coursework of some sort. So yeah, I'm just curious if there's a possibility to like display the data differently. That's my first question.
Nichelle, can I just chime in to make sure I'm clear on your question just before you go on? So in MMSD, any student that is in AVID is required to take an advanced course or two, right? So what you are saying is any student in pre-college program, a People, an ITA, an AVID, and what that looks like in terms of the courses that they are accessing?
Yeah, yes, thank you, Cindy. I think what this comes down to me is it's kind of like an equity scan on who are the students, and you listed also some celebrations of students and other kind of new programs, a CNA credential program, a fire and EMT program. So if there was a way to look at students who are enrolled in advanced coursework / CTE, and then we could see how many students are still not enrolled, I think it would give me a better sense of how far yet we have to go. I don't know if it's possible to run the data like that. It's helpful to see a 5-year trend for all students, our African-American students and our students with IEPs, but I don't know that it gives enough nuance from my perspective. So first, I'm just asking if the data can be pulled in a different way, or if that's not possible.
I don't know, because I am not the person doing the data, but I can follow up with our research and innovative team and see from them what is possible. I don't know if Grady is still on, so I'll pause for a minute for Grady to come on if he is, and if not, we'll have to follow up on that, Nichelle. Oh, Grady, you are on.
I am still here, and I think that we can maybe connect Cindy and board member Nichols. We can relive the glory days and talk about maybe kind of the data looks that you're looking for. So yeah, let's get a little firm on kind of the nuances you're looking at, and maybe Cindy and Beth and I and Breen can figure out how best to get what you need.
Okay, yeah, and I'm not trying to create more work. I think where I was left with is like when I looked at the one data slide that shows, for instance, I think it was the 42 or 48% of all African-American students in our high schools had taken at least one advanced course, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong. I don't have the slide open right now. What I'm curious about is that 42% or 48%, like, are all of those students the people avid students? And there's maybe a few more in early college STEM academy. Like, are they in some of our programs? Because if they are, that says something powerful about being in those programs, but it also says something very powerful about the students who are not being enrolled in those kinds of programs. And I feel like that has a larger implication for the board's work around really supporting equitable access, right? And how do you all think about embedding and integrating more opportunities into the school day for kind of non-selective programs? So that's what I think.
I understand your ask now, and to tease it apart, because I think that will tell us who also has the information to access some of these courses currently, what additional supports might they be receiving, and who is not. So I got you. So I will follow up with Grady, and we will see what's possible.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you so much. The second question I have is again around access, which is, I know tonight we did not get a chance to hear from the principal at Capitol High, and that's okay. I am curious though, even with Capitol High students being kind of in a different way of demonstrating their mastery and proficiency of skills and knowledge, can you talk about what opportunities they might have for advanced courses?
Yeah, absolutely. I will start. So Capitol High instituted earned honors this year in their school for their 9th and 10th grade. They also have been running an AP course as well. And then many of their students take advantage of the early college opportunity. So they have dual credit courses on their campuses. Mary J could talk a little more about that because she was one of the starters of that, but they have, I think students have access up to 12 credits on their campuses. Many of the students take advantage of Start College Now through the EMR. The CNA opportunity. A lot of times they'll go over to Memorial High School for the CNA course, or they'll go to East High School if they're on the east side. So when we say all of our students have opportunities to access this, and what we want to do is extend, that includes our students that are in our kind of options to graduation programs beyond the 6 high schools as well. But Capitol has actually a robust college credit opportunity. I'll just see if Mr. Harvey or Mary want to add anything since Victor is not here tonight.
No, Cindy, I think that you covered that piece, but I'll yield to Mary to bring in the historical perspective.
Thank you, Ennis, and thank you, Cindy. Cindy, I don't think you could have said it any better. I know that Capitol was doing work around honors for this year, but the dual credit opportunities is something that we started back in, I believe it was 2018, 17 or 18. And you are correct that students have the ability to graduate with 12 credits along with their MMSD diploma.
Just for the record, we have Ms. Jankovic, who's also now with us in our high school division, and Mr. Harvey is the associate superintendent for high schools, just so that everyone knows. And she was also the principal of Shabazz last year.
Thank you so much. That's great to hear. Thank you for that. Okay, just a couple more questions. So one of the points that you made tonight in the presentation is that you'll be conducting kind of an arts audit and really looking at ways to make the arts programming and course offerings more robust. Just for clarification, are the only advanced opportunities in the arts right now if you take an AP course, or are there other advanced opportunities? And if so, what are they?
Sure. So I will start and then I'll turn it to Ms. Jackson. So level 3 and 4 art courses are identified as advanced. So that is in the areas of theater, music, art, photography, etc. As students kind of go through the sequence of courses and they get into those higher levels, those are also identified as advanced courses.
Thank you for that. I think I was seeing the level 3 and 4. I was connecting that to the CTE and not the arts part. Okay. And then are those transcripted in a way that signify that those level 3 and 4 courses are considered advanced?
So they are transcripted as the course is. One of the things that we are working on, again, with Madison College and with the UW, is thinking about where those level 3 and 4 courses might be dual credit opportunity courses, meaning so that as the student goes into photography 3, that course could actually be offered as a dual credit. So the student is getting both kind of the advanced course, but also the college credit piece. So that is one of the beautiful things about our partnerships with our post-secondary institutions.
Love that. Great. Okay. You also had a goal to have every 9th grader take an advanced course starting next year. How exactly might you create this possibility?
So I will start and then I will turn it over to the team, and I'll also invite if any of our principals want to chime in here as well as our central office team. We see that through first and foremost, the majority of them through earned honors, since all of the core courses at 9th grade will be an earned honors approach. We are also exploring AP Human Geography that Kaylee mentioned, which is also a 9th grade course. That is something that's running this year in Madison Promise, and a few of our students have been able to take advantage of that in the high schools because of the trained staff we have. So that's another course that we see. And then some of the other just advanced courses that fewer students may take in the 9th grade level, but the main would be through an earned honors in all of their core subject areas.
Okay, so in the one data slide, this was on slide 13. I just want to make sure I'm following. It looked like for 21-22, almost 40%, 39% of students taking some kind of advanced coursework was through honors or earned honors. So you're hoping that 39% is moving all the way up to like 80 something with room, or I don't know, that's being arbitrary, with room for, or would that almost convert to like nearly 90 something percent?
Let me try and explain it a little differently. Okay, and then I again invite the team to chime in here. We right now do not have the earned honors option at every 9th grade core course currently across our schools. Many have it, but not all have it. We still also have opportunities for students to choose standalone. Going into next school year, we envision that every ninth grade core course that will be on the books, it will be an earned honors opportunity. So every student will engage in that course, which we believe is a rigorous course that sets high expectations and has the opportunity to earn honors for all ninth graders. Now, will all ninth graders earn honors credit? Maybe, maybe not, but will all ninth graders be taking a course that is designated as an advanced course under the umbrella of earned honors? Yes.
Thank you. That actually helped me better understand. So while the goal would be to have every core course for next year's ninth graders having an earned honors opportunity, we can't necessarily guarantee that every ninth grader will opt in to the earned honors, right? Because from what I understand, earned honors provides a student an opportunity some point into the course to say, hey, I think I could take the extra challenge and I do want to do earned honors, but they don't have to do it. They don't have to indicate that when they first sign up for the course or their first, right?
No, we actually do not require to be an opt-in decision for students. Every student, based on their performance in the class and how they do on those rigorous tasks, is how they would earn the honors. Remember, we have a preset criteria for that. Every student engages in the curriculum that is rigorous and honors worthy. But if a student demonstrates mastery at a certain criteria, then they would actually get the honors designation. We don't want to leave it up to a student to have to choose that. We want it to happen through the environment, through the instruction, through the mastery of the learning and how the honors designation happens. But we want every kid to have that experience. We believe that is critically important that the moment they walk through the high school doors, that every student has that experience where the course is rigorous, the course is identified as advanced, the course sets those high expectations for students to meet those high expectations. And we want that to be their starting point at ninth grade.
Okay, thank you. Which I guess leads me to my final question, because I want to leave room for my colleagues. My final question is around the actual instruction. So first, I will say, from my years of working in MMSD and also having close connection with students, there was oftentimes, and this is also known beyond our district, students of color taking advanced placement courses, speaking about microaggressions, sometimes hostile class environments, and while there was a challenge and an expectation around the rigor of the content, sometimes not so much on the cultural relevance. So my first question is related to, have we begun to hone in on what culturally responsive teaching looks like in advanced placement courses? And the second related question is related to embedded and earned honors in core courses. Do we foresee any level of professional learning and support for our ninth grade teachers next year that will help them do the kind of scaffolding and differentiation that's needed for just high quality, successful earned honors?
I will answer the second question, and then I am actually going to see if our principals want to come in and answer the first question in terms of what they have been doing at their schools around the professional learning that's culturally responsive, culturally relevant. But for the second part, there's a variety of things that we have been doing for many years, especially at the 9th and 10th grade level in terms of professional learning for our teachers, and will continue to do. One is just around their own common planning and their own design of these performance assessments and the rigorous tasks that they are developing in order to provide that rigorous kind of honors instruction. So that is one. In addition to that, we're using this upcoming summer as a moment in time to dig into some more professional learning for staff when it's free of kind of the classroom expectations and classroom responsibilities to provide additional professional learning. We had tried to do it for the last few years, but with COVID, we haven't been able to really dig into that differentiation and some of those other pieces that we know are also important. So I would say there's a couple different professional learning opportunities, as well as just the professional learning that happens at the school level throughout the year. But I'm going to see if my principal colleagues want to come in and talk more specifically about the AP courses and the experiences for that, because many of them have been working really hard within the classroom and outside supports for that. So what are my
Cindy,
principal friends?
So Cindy, before they go there, I want to extend your answer there. We have been very intentional with the instructional coaches and providing that on the ground training for the teachers, both in planning and the delivery of instruction. And how do you assess that instruction, right? And how do you make those moves once you say, okay, this is where our students are. How do I adjust the instruction to provide those scaffolds for them? So we have been very intentional as we are starting to lay the groundwork about what next year will look like. And so that to extend your answer, Cindy, we have started moving forward as it relates to that. And we have tied it back to the SIP, both priority area 1 and priority area 2. So instruction and climate and culture, because they go together. I think for too long, we separate them. Instructional climate and culture are embedded in each other.
I wanted to add a few things that I've heard throughout the conversation here. One is I want everyone to be thoughtful or mindful of what they are saying about segregated classrooms for advanced learners. Because if this conversation was about students with disabilities or students with a historically marginalized group, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. I don't understand why we're having the conversation about an advanced learning class that has to be exclusive to only a certain group of kids. So I have just going to caution you all, this is a live recorded meeting and the logic is really flawed here in some of what's been said.
And as an individual with disabilities, I'm severely offended. Already I've had one board member who's been shamed asking on disability, and I've been shamed requesting a disability justice class. So
Board
I
Member
would highly suggest you step off.
Board Member Vandermolen.
I think you're missing my point, board member. I think that my point is that we would never want to do this with persons that have
do it all
disabilities.
the time. We built
exactly my point
for them.
Exactly my point. And they should not be discriminated against in advanced learning courses any more than any other course. And so historically marginalized groups get continuously left out of any chance to be in earned honors courses. And so whether it's a marginalized person historically from a racial group, a language group, class, gender, or any other group that has been historically marginalized, that advanced coursework has been denied for them. Students who are working above proficiency in schools are not a protected class, and nor have they been historically marginalized. And so I think as we think about how we're going to become a liberated district, that we need to think about how we're going to include people and not exclude people. So if students choose to sign up for an honors course, it should not be exclusive and taken away from them. from any
is being
student.
taken away from them. They're not allowed to take it. It is.
Board Member Vanderwillen, please raise your hand and add it to the queue.
It is being taken away from them.
Board Member Castro, I did have one of our principals that is here as well to respond to Nichelle's question around kind of the cultural responsiveness, pedagogy and professional learning for AP courses, if you still want us to answer that question.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Principal Smith, are you on with us? Our other principals had to sign off, but I know Mickey Smith from East is still here, so I'll just see if she wants to add in what she's doing specifically. Okay, she must have stepped away for a minute, so we'll pause on that and we'll move on.
Cindy, if I may, I can jump in here for a moment and address Board Member Nichols' question. I think a couple different things, right? One, I know that as a part of the work that my team does in going in with principals, specifically my EE strategist teams that will go in with the principals and observe classrooms. We have since over the last couple of years worked really focusing on centering equity. We have equity probes that we look at, that we look through, that we process, right? So that's a part of the observation and a part of what we provide as feedback when we go into any classroom, right? That includes advanced learning classrooms. I think the other piece of it too is that as principals, we have as we lead professional learning for principals, we are also engaging in with Gloria's book as a whole group, right? We started that process, and we also are leaning in on many of the things that we've done and learned, right? Whether it was through the work of Zaretta Hammond, whether it's the work that we've done with National Equity Project in the past, whether it's thinking about our equity audits. So there is a lot that we have done, and what we're trying to do is really put it into practice, because it's not just the work that's happening in advanced learning. It is all, if we're talking about the work that we're doing in Madison and the way we're practicing, or the way our teachers deliver their instruction, it should not be separate from culturally responsive. It should actually be, right? So if we're teaching advanced learning, if we're at advanced learning courses, those should be culturally responsive, just like if we're teaching earned honors, just like we're teaching Spanish 1, just like we're teaching, English 9. So I think that's part of the work we have to do to really ensure, and that's part of the practice that we continue to do to support each other in that work and continue to learn deeply, because again, that is the focus of our work. But those are just a couple of examples that I know we've done with principals as we continue to look and delve into culturally responsive teaching practices and not losing sight of all of the work that we've done, and also continuously looking at internally looking in the mirror about where we hold our biases. As an instructor of advanced learning, what is our bias that we might have when we look out in the classroom? How are we challenging ourselves as educators to really think about our students and who we're teaching and bring them along with us? So I think, I mean, it's not, I can continue on and on, but I think that gets to your question, Board Member Nichols.
Yes, thank you. I'll just say I appreciated hearing the comments about the 8th to 9th grade transition. So many thanks for focusing on the importance of middle school. And I hope the rest of this conversation can hold space to honor varying perspectives on our pathway forward. It's starting to feel a little tense, and quite honestly, even if we don't agree, we do need to be able to work together. So I'm just going to leave it there.
Thank you. Board Member Gomez-Schmidt.
Thank you, Board Member Castro. And I just want to say that I really appreciate you presenting us with the focus on expanding opportunities for our high school students and even starting in middle school. There were two places in this presentation that seem to be more about changing or not expanding opportunities. And one I have a question for, and maybe this is for Mary. talked about limiting standalone CTE elective courses, and I'm not quite sure what that means for the change in our CTE education. The other place, of course, and thank you to my board colleagues for asking for clarity on this, is for us changing the model for how we're providing advanced instruction at the 9th and 10th grade. And, the thing I want to comment about this is, we've been in this discussion for a long time. And I think we lose sight of why we have the honors courses at the 9th and 10th grade level. And they were put in 2010, implemented to fill a gap in core instruction that's required by state statute. And so the advanced options for the core courses are in math, English, science, and social studies. And we know that there are unacceptable disparities in who is taking these advanced courses. And I completely agree that every 9th grader should have the option to earn an honors course in a regular course. But as I've said before, I do not think you have to get rid of the standalone honors to do this. The last time we talked about this in depth, we looked at the data, and the number and percent of students of color and students of all backgrounds was increasing in both the standalone honors and in the earned honors. For this presentation, it's all together, so you can't really tell. And I guess we weren't meaning to dive into that tonight. But another point that I'll make is that, when some other districts have made this decision to switch to a different model, there was a very robust plan that came out before the actual instruction was changed. And so it was actually like a 3 to 5 year plan to show the community how this was going to be implemented in steps, and how the rigor wouldn't be lost along the way. And I think that is the concern that I keep hearing from the community over and over, is that we're making it into a one size fits all option. And that isn't necessarily what everybody needs. And so the other point that I'll make is that we have done a lot of work under an Office for Civil Rights resolution, and I see Sharon Alexander jumped on here. Hi, Sharon. Between 2014 and 2020, we were working on a resolution to address disparities in advanced coursework. And under that resolution, it recognized right off the bat that it wasn't just about access, but it was about preparation. And so we had an advanced learning advisory committee that came out, and as part of that Office for Civil Rights resolution, came up with 10 recommendations that really dug into the root causes of the disparities that we are now trying to fix by changing this model. And those were around, it was around bias, it was around opportunity, structures and systems, and somewhere along the way we have lost these recommendations. And so, in having this discussion, I think we do, Cindy alluded to this, we have to look at the K-8 level and what we are doing to prepare more students. I appreciate us talking about what we're doing at the middle school level to prepare more students, but just doing it at the 9th grade level and getting rid of an option, I think will hide the disparities and it won't fix them. So I just am in disagreement, I guess, about that going forward, and would like more details about how it's going to work. I have a couple more. I actually have some questions wrapped in there too. I guess one of the things with the Office for Civil Rights work and our work with equal opportunity schools, when we talk about AP coursework, you talked about surveying students what they were interested in taking. Equal opportunity schools worked with our high schools and surveyed hundreds of students about what course options they might be interested in. And so I would really like us to take a step back and look at that too, because the courses were like AP psychology and AP computer science, and the barrier there seems to be having enough qualified teachers to teach those. And not necessarily interest by the students. And so I hope we can take a look back and really wrap that into the conversation about which courses we're adding. I know that I have talked to a lot of parents at La Follette too, and they are very interested in talking about access to AP for La Follette students versus what students can access at other schools. So I think looking at what's available from school to school is important too. So I guess, my question again is around how we're going to move forward, if there's going to be a plan that's coming forward to the board in advance, and how we are really going to incorporate, you know, the work that has been sort of been going on behind the scenes with equal opportunity schools to increase access to AP. And then that capacity building was supposed to walk back down towards the honors classes.
So I can start answering your question. So I want to make sure everyone knows that the OCR resolution that you mentioned was resolved 3 years afterwards, and we continue that work, both in terms of the equity work, in terms of the work to increase the number of students of color that are accessing courses. And the data around EOS has definitely been used in terms of determining which courses we want to expand and or add to that. So as we were thinking about like that AP Human Geography, for example, that was a course. A lot of the dual credit courses come from what our students said in the survey, both that survey as well as our senior survey that we do every year in terms of telling us what career areas and or interest areas students want to explore. That's how the barbering has come to be. So we are constantly using that information. We do have a plan under the leadership of Sharon Alexander. The other year, we developed a multi-year plan, and we have a plan, which is what has gotten us to this point today in terms of thinking about both this year, but also wanting to foreshadow for next year in terms of the work, in terms of the professional development, etc. Let me see if my colleagues want to just chime into some of your other questions, Chris. Otherwise, I can take a stab, but I'll pause to see if others want to add.
I'll just real quick, I just wanted to comment, Board Member Gomez-Schmidt, on us looking at the AP courses that we have across the buildings. That was absolutely one of the points that we brought up tonight, right? You brought up that some La Follette parents that you've spoken to said that there are AP courses that they would like their students to have access to, and we are right there with you, and that is one of our next steps in maintaining and not maintaining, but ensuring that there's equitable access to AP courses is doing just that. Identifying buildings that have some AP courses, some that don't, and then making sure that those are offered across. So I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that.
Can I just mention too that it's also looking the other way. AP La Follette has an amazing AP seminar course that students are allowed to take senior year instead of taking their AP English class. And I attended that class last year. It was amazing. And not all schools have that. So I think there are some things that La Follette has that other schools don't have too. So looking across the board as to what might be beneficial for all schools to have.
Absolutely.
Chris, if I can just chime in for a minute, we've done some audit work to look at our AP courses, and really it was looking from school to school to see what was being offered, making sure that we do have that equity across each of our high schools. I am at the Wisconsin Association for Talented and Gifted right now, and we are as a team out here really learning more and more about what gifted instruction and talent looks like. And it is very difficult being in sessions today where I am hearing my colleagues and researchers from across the country really dig into the conversation about equity and how our gifted classrooms have not had that in the past. We are seeing a national trend where we are seeing that we have to provide opportunities for students. We've had individuals speak from Naglieri, from Scott Peters, talking about local norms. Some of the very best individuals that we have worked with in Madison really pushing on this conversation and saying that there must be change. I believe that we can still provide the opportunities. We are looking at AP opportunities and dual credit for freshmen and for younger students. 3 to 5% of our population is going to need that profoundly gifted instruction. But the other students in our school do deserve the opportunity, because I was that student that just didn't have anybody see me or know that I was capable of doing the work. And we can't continue to see that happen for so many of our learners. So the trend, the work, The conversation and the elephant in the room is that we must break down and stop the barriers, and we must provide opportunities for all learners, and then we provide the support. It is what my team has been focused on. It is what we are doing as a district. I am super excited about the work and know it's the right work because we are moving forward together. I know it's a change, and change is hard. But when I see nationally, this is the trend, this is the research, I know we're on the right track and we are going to do great things for all students.
And just to be clear, my comment is that I completely agree with increasing access. I just don't think you have to get rid of some opportunities to do that. So
I definitely want to expand that. I'm so sorry, Chris. I'm looking at it going, I look at AP data like it's going out of style. It was up at 1 o'clock this morning, just woke up early and in a room looking at our AP data because I'm so proud of what our students are doing. You're going to hear some great feedback very soon about just the amazing work that our students are doing in those classes and getting perfect scores. And I want to be able to say that we provide that to every student, every opportunity, but we've got to build it. And if we build it, we're giving them the earned honors opportunity. We give them the support. We scaffold for teachers. We help kids see themselves as scholars because that scholar identity is so necessary. I'm looking forward to the work that we have really brought forward. And I think it's the right work and it's going to really push us in the direction that we need to be going nationally.
all right, thank you, Sharon. I just have another couple of questions, and this sort of shifts over to CTE. We had some goals and metrics, around increasing or getting up to 90% for different things, that metric slide, Cindy. And ask if can you provide like where we're at now, like information to the board, like we're trying to get to 90% for some of these things and increase by 10%. If you could share with us, not right now, but if you could get us the information about where we're at numbers wise, what that 10% increase means, what getting to 90% means. I think that piece is really important, so we can get the whole picture. And I'm also wondering, what is the goal? I didn't see it on there, the goal for the skilled trades and increasing access to the skilled trades or on that information. I didn't see that on the goal slide.
Yeah, so I'll add here, and then I'm going to ask Mary, because I know you asked another question, so I'll let Mary respond to the other question. A lot of that gets into the industry certification. So when students go into the skills trades, they're able to earn an industry certification, or they're able to go into that youth apprenticeship, right? In order to do youth apprenticeship in many of our skill trades area, they have to have done a certain number of courses before they can launch into that. So both the youth apprenticeship opportunity and our industry certification opportunities are two ways that we are going to measure our increase in the skills trades. I think it's assumed in both of those goals, Chris. So hopefully that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. I just think there are some students probably who are going to enter the skilled trades after they leave high school and maybe not necessarily getting an industry certification or doing an apprenticeship, since we only have 21 students doing that. There's other ways to get into that post high school.
Yeah, so here's the thing. This is a great call to action for all of us. We do not have a good way in the state of Wisconsin to track what happens to our students that go directly into the career world after high school. Whereas for students entering into a post-secondary institution, we have the National Student Clearinghouse data where we're able to track students in terms of where they go, what they study, how long it takes, if they persist through. We don't have that. We've been working super closely with the state level, the Workforce Development Board, to think about ways to actually get that back. The only way we get that back right now is self-reporting that we do by literal phone calls to our students that have been in many of our CTE areas after graduation. So we are trying to piece that together, but we don't have yet a great way for that. And it is something we've been pushing on the state to improve their system. So I think that's what you're asking for in terms of that, and we'll do our best, but we don't have good systems yet without self-reporting or kind of follow-ups to our graduates. But it's a work in progress, so help us with that.
Thank you so much for answering those questions. And I really would like to see the plan going forward for the 9th grade honors work.
And I'm going to turn it to Mary to answer your question about the
Oh yeah, no,
standalone.
yes, if you could, about the limit on the skilled trades.
Yeah, yes. Hi, Board Member Gomez Schmidt. I think you were asking about more clarification on the limitation of the standalone CTE elective courses on the slide. Yeah, so we know that we have some work to do around, we do have some offerings right now of some courses that we're categorizing as CTE that really aren't getting to what Cindy mentioned about exposure, job certification, youth apprenticeships. They're just kind of standalone. I'll give you an example. Out at some of our high schools right now, sewing is categorized as a CTE. So we're doing a process right now to dig into course offerings to take a look at things like that. We also know that we need, that we're going to do some additional work on the fact that if a student takes culinary 1, they're not necessarily always set up to take culinary 2, then 3, then 4. There might be gaps in their schedule. And so we're working on the flexibility to allow to make sure that students are taking culinary 1 if they're interested, then right the next semester culinary 2. So they do have that opportunity to go all the way up to the levels 3s and levels 4s before exiting out of Madison. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I guess just along the way, I just don't want to make sure that we don't lose some of these courses that might not be connected to an industry certification, but are really important for students being able to explore their interests.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Board Member Simpkin.
Thank you. Cindy, I'm wondering, you've talked about the 9th grade courses that will have earned honors attached to them being without the earned honors component, being rigorous, our honors grade classes. I mean, can you describe a little more about what you're talking about? It's are the general ed classes going to be using a new curriculum, or what are you thinking as far as that goes?
Yeah, thank you. So you're talking about what does the earned honors course look like? The course that offers earned honors. So
well, I guess I'm wondering, so you're saying the word rigorous, I guess I want to dig into that and know if that means, if that is indicative of some changes in class curriculums.
Yeah, so we start obviously with just grade level standards and ensuring all of our students are able to have access to and meet grade level standards. And then when we talk about kind of the criteria for earned honors, our teachers have been developing a suite of performance assessments that extend beyond the grade level standards for students to show mastery above. So how are we thinking about kind of the in-depth around critical thinking, critical writing, our critical readers, and how students are showing performance beyond the grade level standards through the demonstration of performance tasks, performance assessments, etc. And so that is how we have begun to define earned honor. So kind of the universal and then the above beyond that. And I'll see if Kaylee or anyone else wants to chime in to add to what I just shared.
I'll actually open it up to, hoping she is still here, to Patty, if she is still on the call, to talk a little bit more about the coursework. She's been working very closely with our high schools in working on that. Here she comes.
Thanks, Keely. And I'm sorry, I'm fiddling with, I accidentally forgot my laptop at work today. So I'm using a different device and apparently not set up to have the camera work with Zoom. So you'll have to just hear my voice. And yeah, so we, adding to the work that has been done in past years, we've begun some work to bring together a team from across schools to take a look at where we already have strengths and identify the work they're doing in their schools and or the work we need to do at a district level so that we can really prioritize our focus around the identified needs. And I think we're early in stages of identifying the specifics of that, and we'll have certainly some more details to come as we continue our work with that leadership team, or leadership teams, I should reference.
All right, thank you. Board Member Muldrow.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you, Chair Castro, for giving me this opportunity to speak. I want to start by leaning into the arts audit. So something we don't talk about often, and I know, Ms. Jackson, you know exactly what I'm going to say to you, which is there are 5 areas of advanced learning. That includes leadership in the performing arts. We're not allowing kids to even demonstrate all of the areas in which they are advanced. If you are an advanced learner in the area of dance, what are we doing for you?
Yeah, and we had this conversation, was it the last instruction work group meeting? And again, I would have Sharon come back on screen, as she's been doing a lot of this work alongside us in terms of identifying advanced learners, in the arts. And as we said before, we've learned a lot from our Summer Arts Academy. We've got a ton of input from our students and a ton of feedback from our students. We know that our arts courses throughout our districts, not just in high school, but we know that they need some attention and they need some work. And so that is the attention and the work that we're putting in it this year. Next year, where we're getting the input this year and making the plans. But we want to change we want to adjust our curriculum. We also want to adjust some of these courses so that we have more opportunities, not only at the high school, but in our middle schools as well, so that we can identify students as being advanced learners in the arts. Dr. Alexander, I'll hand it over to you to speak a little bit more.
Absolutely. We've been kind of excited again. We got some information, preliminary information from our summer arts program. Primarily, it was looking at what kind of opportunities could we provide for students. We looked at many things that we thought were interesting, but also found out what our students might want to also learn about. I think we are excited about the work that's happening at Sandberg Elementary, because they were able to be one of our grant recipients using the EFSER dollars specifically for leadership. So with our students in our leadership programs, we're using the TOPS assessment there to identify students and truly look at a leadership program that provides opportunity for our students. I'm also having significant conversations with primarily had been with our fine arts coordinator to say, what can we do differently? I'm excited about the fact that we will have a director of fine arts and being able to really dig into some of these conversations more, because it started with just conversations. I want to move from conversation to action.
I want to pause for just a second, because I've asked this question a lot, actually, and the question is specific. If you are an advanced learner in the area of dance, what are we doing for you?
Right now, the conversations have been working with our fine arts department, and it would be mostly in music because we're working with Randy. We do talk about how are some things that we can do for our students that are piano players. And we look for opportunities for those students to continue with private lessons, being able to do some work with that within the school system. But if you're looking at dance specifically, we don't have the primary resources within the school, but we are looking at some of the resources that we can connect students with. I found a child most recently who was just amazing dance student, and we found those resources to get that student connected with an outside group.
So what I've heard is at our elementary school level, there is opportunities to explore ballet or jazz dance or a variety of dance, depending on the elementary school you're at, and that that would be a space where it might be recognized that a student is particularly talented. So I think thinking about dance, the opportunities that exist both within physical education and the opportunities that exist within music is a place where we want to be more expansive. The other thing I want to say about our approach to earned honors is one of the things I think is really challenging, is that we are not identifying certain students as advanced in elementary school and middle school. So to get to high school and say, actually, all along, you were incredibly capable, and it's just nobody noticed. I think there's something really heartbreaking about that. And I think the disparities are racial disparities. I think there's disparities around disability, but there is also disparities around gender. And I appreciate, Laura, that you brought up your stepchildren. I'm going to talk about how this plays out for my daughter. So my daughter entered MMSD after having a Montessori early childhood education. And in that education, she was really exploring algebra and geometry as a pretty little kid. She actually wrote 2 books on mathematics for fun. She came into MMSD, and one of the first things she was told was that she wasn't that good at math. And she was told that on a very regular basis and believed that wholeheartedly. So the under-identification of girls, and specifically girls of color, in the area of mathematics in early childhood is a factor I think we need to consider when we talk about where kids are in high school. The other thing I think is really important, and I want to thank Deb Hoffman for saying we need to be careful about the way we have this conversation, because this conversation has been set up for a long time to advantage some students and disadvantage others. And I think part of the conversation we're having right now is about whether the students who have been given preferential treatment can still get preferential treatment while other students gain access to opportunities. And I think that's a really complex conversation to have. And there's a lot of feelings tied up in that. But all over the world, students are being taught multiple ages from the age of 7 on. All over the world, students are being taught calculus. And taking a strength-based approach to all children is a positive thing to do. So I'm very proud of the work you all are doing to make sure that we are reconciling things that have historically harmed specifically our students who identify as young people of color, our students who are immigrants, and young women in specific areas. I want to ask specifically about demographic data that you might have, Cindy, specific to who is becoming a CNA, because when we started Pathways, one of my big concerns about Pathways is that Pathways was going to turn affluent students into doctors and young Black women into CNAs. I was a CNA right out of high school. It's a certification you can get in 6 weeks. I'm curious who is getting which opportunities.
Thank you for that question, President Mulder. I do not have the breakdown with me tonight, but I am happy to get that for you. One thing that I will mention that we talked often about in terms of CNA is about the benefits beyond just the certification. The benefits where a person taking CNA courses can benefit you if you're interested in the medical field, can benefit you if you're interested in sports medicine, right? Not that the CNA course is to take only if you're interested in potentially becoming a CNA. So we also are trying to expand the just conversation around the benefits of getting that certification beyond it being a job opportunity for some. So I just wanted to name that. And I'm happy to have the team get you the data on the demographics. I will say that it is predominantly females, not all females, but it is predominantly those that identify as females currently in our CNA program, but not all.
I think that is a relevant thing to look at. If we have a program that is more likely to make young men engineers and young women the lowest paid medical professionals, I think that we need to re-examine the opportunities within that program. Although I am excited to see students graduating with college credit and graduating, able to get their associate's degree. I think we really need to examine the larger implications of our programming. I want to say this for you all coming back to us. I am hoping that the next time we have a conversation about advanced learning, that we are talking about all 5 areas identified, and that we are really looking at what is our plan for each area and who is being given the opportunities in each area. So if our students are advanced learners in the area of music, advanced learners in the area of theater or dance, that we are doing something to support that talent, that gift, so that young person comes to school and understands that that strength is being recognized and supported within their education. And I hope that we are examining, if somebody is advanced in the area of math, how are we recognizing that and who are we recognizing that for? Because those disparities are persistent, and they need to be addressed. And I want to say, I have a real problem with how advanced learning has historically excluded certain groups of students. I have a far greater problem with that than all of the work that you all are doing to try to address that. And I think that this work is incredibly challenging, and I think you deserve the support of this board. And I want to do this work with you. And so I think we have to have a very critical conversation, and a conversation that isn't easy to have, but is necessary if we want to correct things that have been wrong for far too long. That's it for me, Sabian.
Thank you. So I see 2 board members' hands up. Going for a second round, I just want us to have some self-awareness on time and space. We've exhausted about an hour and change on this topic, and we have 2 other items. So please, real quick, Board Member Gomez-Schmidt and Board Member Semken.
Yes, thank you. I just, one of the questions that I forgot to ask was, and it's a very large question, so maybe you can just tell us process-wise how we are going to address the topic of pathways. Since the implementation of it, we've sort of gotten to the point where 3 of our high schools are at, have 2 pathways each. We talked about the most difficult place to get stuck is at about 50% for scheduling purposes. And to tell you the truth, the pathways is sort of what drove the earned honors to start with. So I'm sort of curious where the discussion about what we're doing with pathways, when that is going to come back to the board and how it fits in with this work of expanding opportunities for students.
Sure, I'll be happy to answer that. Pathways, the health services pathway and the information technology pathway are still running at 3 of our schools. And as of now, we plan on having those run next year as well. The student experiences have been pretty phenomenal. I cannot answer for you yet kind of the expansion of that or next steps, because that is part of our strategic framework recalibration work. And as we learn more in terms of inputs from the recalibration, that will determine next steps. We are definitely focused on expansion of the articulated skills trades as well. But in terms of the specific MMSD personalized pathways beyond what we currently offer, I'm not sure at this time until our strategic framework recalibration work continues.
Yes, and I would just like to say thank you, Ms. Green, for that response, and thank you for the question too, Ms. Gomez-Schmidt, because as we are recalibrating, as she said, we're trying to listen to the voices, we're listening to our stakeholders, what they're saying, our students, our staff, to our board, and work what we can do moving forward. But one of the things that we know coming this year, emerging out of, I don't want to say out of the pandemic, we still are where we are, but we're moving forward. We're looking at how we can expand and take this year's budgetary opportunity to begin to make some decisions after we've heard from everyone. We will hear that coming back. So we will be laying it out. And I'm glad to also hear you say that in terms of the intersection between the honors and also the pathways, which caused the conundrum and how it was introduced. And I know that I've shared before that how we introduced pathways also was a little bit problematic as far as our full implementation of it. I think I'm looking forward to sharing with the board how they can complement one another. We don't have to get stuck with pathways and locked in like we did here. So once we get recalibrate, we'll come back. We're going to lay out the timeline for you for what we consider to be robust opportunities for all of the expansion of our academics.
Thanks, I appreciate that. And I think one of the criticisms of pathways, or one of the challenges along the way, is that people felt like it was limiting students' opportunities. And that's why I appreciate this conversation tonight about how we're expanding opportunities for students and what that would look like going forward.
All right.
Thank you.
Board Member Simpkin.
Thank you. I just wanted to end my part of this with a couple of comments. I want to first acknowledge that we absolutely live in a racist society, and that our educational situation that we're in right now is certainly connected to racism. That's the reason why we have the gap in students that are in advanced honors classes, advanced classes, and students who are not. And so I just wanted to first of all say that. I'm not particularly good at couching most of my comments with commentary, so I'm going to add it now. I absolutely recognize that we need to make changes, and that a school district is a perfect place for changing our society and making it a more fair community that we can be living in, a more fair world that we can be living in. And I believe that that should absolutely be part of the mission that we are on. I am completely on board with that. I want that to happen. And I believe that all students have different learning needs. And as we're moving forward, I want us to make sure that while we're creating a system that is acknowledging and raising up the needs of our beautiful Black scholars who have experienced microaggressions and institutional racism and things that have set them up to not be in the same place as our white students. That we're also recognizing that for some of those students, just like for some of our white students, they're going to benefit from classes that are in a different style, like the honors classes. And so I want to implore us to consider not throwing away the honors classes because they have a history of disparity, but to continue to look at the younger grades and identify which of our students do need more rigorous instruction and continue to be giving them that, so that when they get to high school, they can take classes that are honors classes and be successful at it. And so I'm just gonna leave it at that. I don't know if that helped or hurt, but throwing it out there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Board Member Simpkin. You know, I'll just say that young people feeling less than as learners is manufactured. Them feeling like they can't make it through a day of school is a problem of school culture that's manufactured in the United States, not a problem of that young person. This happens from K through 12. I work in higher ed. This happens in the higher ed system too, that messages are sent throughout the day to make these young people feel like they are not capable of learners, and that is a problem of the educational institutions in the US, not these young people. It's a problem of gatekeeping knowledge and gatekeeping who can produce knowledge. What's considered advanced is also manufactured. We just learned this year that the College Board finally approved a AP Black History course in 2022. What's considered advanced is manufactured. I was a student in an AP class, and I felt like I was losing part of myself, like I was losing part of my culture. Just by being in that space. I felt like I had to code switch and change who I was just to get through that class. And so, look, you know, this issue is deep. I applaud you for this work. Thank you, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it again. Okay.
Thank you, Savi. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, it's all good, Cindy. Moving on to 6.1, universal practices to address social and emotional learning. We'll be hearing about some SEL curriculum development. Very excited to hear about what that is, addressing our work on restorative justice. I'm excited for that. So Ms. Green and Dr. Esser, please take us away.
Yes, so I am going to thank you all so much. Thank you for the previous conversation. And now to our next topic. Is Dr. Esser on here?
I'm here.
Dr. Esser, you still here? Okay, awesome.
Oh, yes, I'm
All
still
right.
here.
I'm going to turn it over to Leah to get us started.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for your. Oh, you muted yourself. I was trying to go to my notes and I didn't do that. Thank you. All right, let me get to the right spot here. Okay, so I am really excited to have the opportunity, as I always am, to talk to you about the work of our Department of Student and Staff Supports. More specifically tonight, though, I have the opportunity to give an update on our district's investment into the development of a cohesive system of social, emotional, and mental health supports. This evening, we're going to focus on the investments that the board made this school year, particularly those that relate to our universal practices for culture and climate. I want to assure you that though we're not talking about our tier 2 intervention systems and our mental health investments, at a future meeting, we will be able to discuss those in more depth. But tonight we're concentrating on those universal approaches. Our department, our purpose really is to reduce the barriers to learning and to make sure that our students are able to grow to college, career, and community readiness. So it's simply not enough for us to reduce barriers and hope for the best, but rather as a department and as a district, it's incumbent upon us that we are developing and supporting the implementation of that tiered system of social, emotional, and mental health supports. Next slide. Aligned to the strategic framework, our department is focused on ensuring every student experiences a thriving school culture and a safe and supportive learning environment, leading to healthy identity development, thriving school culture and safe and supportive learning environment, leading to healthy identity development, a sense of belonging, and ultimately college and career readiness. College, career, and community readiness. The behavior education plan is our approach to behavior and discipline. It outlines our guiding principles, the foundational approach to culture and climate, interventions and supports, and discipline. Though tonight we're not reporting specific BEP outcome metrics, please be assured that the behavior education plan goals of addressing racial inequities, increasing belonging and safety in school, implementing tiered systems of support and intervention, and reducing disproportionality in the use of exclusionary practices drives the work of our entire department, our decisions and our actions. These are the goals that we hold ourselves as a department accountable to, regardless if we're talking about policy specifically. Later this week, the board will receive the annual behavior education plan data summary from the entire 2021-2022 school year. And I will be back to present 2022-2023 data at a future board meeting to give this group an update on our progress this school year, particularly given this year is really the first real year coming back from the pandemic, where we can really truly again begin to study comparative analysis. As a district, we are committed to educate to liberate. You will see let me just back up. When you get the data, you will see that the trend since before the BEP and since we've implemented in 2014, we do continue to perpetuate disproportionate outcomes for Black students with disabilities. So you will see when you review that data that we continue to need to refocus and readdress our work in order to meet our goals. If, as a district, we are committed to educate to liberate, and by disproportionately suspending Black students and students with disabilities, we continue to perpetuate disparities in exclusionary discipline and academic outcomes. Throughout MMSD, we can definitely highlight areas of programmatic excellence and schools who have significantly improved disparate outcomes for our scholars. However, as a district, we've not yet made those substantive improvements to our disparities. If we continue status quo, we will, with certainty, perpetuate disparate discipline and academic outcomes that we experience under the Code of Conduct and that we still are experiencing with the BEP. To address, we have to do something differently. As a district and as a department, we are centering and prioritizing Goal 2. Though we have not yet achieved the expected outcomes of the BEP, we remain cautiously optimistic that our approach to behavior, our selected foundational practices, and intervention systems have the potential to disrupt our disparities. We believe that if we are able to more intentionally resource, plan, measure, and adjust our approach to behavior education, that we can and will change outcomes for scholars. We're in the process of developing a comprehensive implementation monitoring tool that will both allow us to monitor and support implementation at the school level, but will also provide us the opportunity to study the impact of our actions on our outcomes, further allowing us to refine our district approach to behavior education. Next slide. To improve school climate, we really truly need to meaningfully and consistently examine and address policies and practices that alienate scholars or do not go far to advance equity. Though our inclination is to focus on the what, adding and implementing innovative or exciting programs for our scholars, it's incumbent on us to first, or at very least concurrently, address the how. For example, in order to implement transformative justice, restorative justice, we have to have clear roles and responsibilities, consistent teaming structures, and intentional data collection and review processes. By prioritizing these hows, we're able to build systems and structures that serve our entire MTSS and allow schools to more effectively and efficiently implement the what, or the programs throughout those tiers. So essentially, we are striving to ensure that there are systems and structures in place so that it's not just one champion or one principal that is holding the work of social emotional learning and mental health within a school. And we suspect that we will be able to study our implementation data in comparison to our outcome data in order to identify those promising practices and our schools who are advanced in their application of the BEP and the application of an overall MTSS. So that is just what I wanted to provide as a quick grounding, maybe not as quick as I had hoped, but I think it's really important that the board and community understand that approach and why we are talking about the hows even more often than the what. For the rest of my time this evening, I am going to provide a progress update specific to our investments in our universal approach. With those implementation and data considerations in mind, we requested money from the Board of Education to address multiple aspects of our social, emotional, and mental health learning continuum. Tonight, we're really focused on those universal aspects and our ability to foster safe and thriving school culture and climate. So you'll see our focus tonight, and then in a future meeting, we will talk about our mental health investments. The first and most important investment that we have made is in our schools and physically adding staff to our buildings. As a district, despite complex funding forecasts, we committed to and added 9.4 FTE for school social workers this year. Of those school social workers, we hired that 9.4 and an additional 5.6 to fill additional vacancies, and it increased the number of staff of color in our social work field by 3 people. We also have a floater psychologist who's alleviating demands on our schools. And our team from Student and Staff Supports are in buildings and providing on the ground support to schools that have vacancies and or new staff that would benefit from side-by-side support and modeling. When we, as our next foundational practice is around transformational social emotional learning. As a district, we are investing in cell curriculum that we are piloting at elementary, along with staff responsible for helping us codify our foundation around social emotional learning at elementary and revisit and redesign our approach to social emotional learning at secondary, and then also our work around truly identifying, measuring, monitoring all of the systems around interventions. We are very proud of the work that we did at the start of the school year, launching at Welcome Back and our leadership institutes with modules around professional development modules around social emotional learning, restorative justice, and mental health. And are really excited about the staff voice and opportunities for engagement that we've had in our initial process for elementary cell curriculum selection. The board can expect to see that come around again through consent at some point once we select our curriculum through the RFP process and all of those other formalities. Lastly, I believe, second to last, sorry, is our focus on restorative justice. This year is a major opportunity for us to pause, study, reflect, and refine. We as a district have a restorative justice program manager that will be joining the team soon. And we have funds that will allow us to bring a group of community stakeholders together to discuss culture and climate, our overall vision, an updated vision, and our implementation priorities for the year. As I spoke about this idea of implementation metrics, that is going to be very critical in our work around restorative justice as we look to see which features of restorative justice must be in place in order for the process to have its desired outcomes. So you will continue to hear from us about updates on that process as well this year. And then lastly, I want to focus our attention on the professional development opportunities for our student services teams. This investment in particular was really around our psychologists, social workers, counselors, and nurses, and BEAs, PBIS, culture and climate coaches, student engagement deans, that sort of thing. So our core student services staff. We have a lot of other professional development that we could report out on and share with you, but in general wanted to share what we did with the funds that were allocated in particular to PD for student services. We were able to send a large group, myself included, to an intensive RJ training this summer. In addition to central office leaders, there were 5 principals and 22 other district and school leaders. We were able to train 75 plus staff this summer in many of our core competencies and foundational practices around social emotional learning and mental health, and have confirmed that motivational interviewing, which is a training that is being funded through the budget this year, is a priority and truly a grounder for all that we do in our support of students. So as we move forward, you can expect to hear more in particular about our core competencies for student services teams and the aligned professional development that we will provide and or require in many respects and provide to our staff. So with that, I will pause. As a reminder, you will be seeing behavior education specific outcome data very soon, and I will have the opportunity to present on that in this space in the future as well. And we'll continue to report out on our progress in general, in addition to our progress on the use of our resources, as I did here tonight.
Thank you so much, Dr. Esser. And in the interest of efficiency, I'd just like to do a round robin of board members to ask questions. And so if you'd like to go immediately, I'll start with board member Nichols.
Sure. Thanks for the update. It's been I remember when you were sharing probably just coming out of summer, some of the updates that you all had done over the summer. And so I appreciate getting kind of a up-to-date look. I will say in the area of SEL, I know that we did invest in the ESSER plan, the curriculum developers. And I think I had a question about that as we were talking about the overall budget. So let me just circle back. Has the curriculum been developed? And if you said that, I apologize, I might have missed it. So one, I'm curious if the curriculum has been developed. And if it is truly, so you're using the words transformational SEL. I've seen transformative. So I just want to get clear. Like this is SEL that is clearly aligned with what? I want to make sure I'm using the same definition that you're using.
Yep. So part of our work this year, so the concept of transformational SEL is one that has come into practice since we originally developed our vision statement around restorative justice. So right now we are using that word, but frankly have yet to consistently define it as a district. And so part of our work this year in that visioning process is how do we as a district, we know how transformational justice is defined, but how do we as a district operationalize that? And what does that look like for MMSD? So that will be a part of our overall visioning and implementation process. But as it relates to social emotional learning and what we have and developed and not, at the elementary level, we have been using second steps social emotional learning curriculum for the last several years, probably 8-ish. And based on our study of the materials, feedback from staff, and just our general outcomes, we have identified the need to study other curriculum to understand whether or not there's a better product to meet our needs. So that work began this past school year at the elementary level, and we are at the point where we are close to selecting that pilot. We will be working with schools that have a feeling of readiness to pilot the SEL curriculum, particularly thinking about schools that piloted EL and might be a little bit more advanced in that and ready to take on another layer. So we'll be piloting at elementary. At the secondary level, at middle school, we had a second step for a period. We then worked on integrating second step with academic and career planning lessons, and also working to just embed SEL within our content areas. We just hired somebody this year to begin our secondary process. We suspect that at elementary, we will be purchasing a curriculum and then creating supplements through our overall SEL scope and sequence. At middle and high school, we are unsure yet if that will be something that is best served in an explicit curriculum, or if instead our approach is really around embedded social emotional learning and the systems and structures and expectations for that. So we have SEL curriculum, we have SEL expectations, but we are in need of a revamp pretty considerably, and that is the systems work we're doing right now.
Thank you. So I want to be mindful of how I say this. Because I do know we're emerging out, from a couple of years that would have been hard to really do some of the foundational and universal practices. And we also had opportunities for quite a bit of ESSER funds to really focus on social, emotional, and well-being of our students. So with all due respect, I hear that you all are kind of getting things kind of regrounded on the systems and the structures so that the how is the priority. And you've got some curriculum and you're going to be looking at others. I think the concern that I have, and I need to maybe better think about this, Dr. Esser, I think what I hear and what I see sometimes in our district is we're using words like transformational, SEL, restorative justice, educate to liberate, and anti-racism. We use those things more as a flag for an aspiration. And yet when you get just below the surface, sometimes it doesn't feel like we even have working definitions or, you know, I mean, I don't know that we always have a sense of how people are interpreting some of those big kind of commitments and words. So I think for me, I would be sometime in the future curious to hear, like, what is transformational SEL? What is it? And how does it sound? What does it look like? How do students feel it? And as you're thinking about piloting curriculum and thinking about implementation metrics down the road, like, it would be great to also tie some of that in. And I know you're not necessarily there yet, or you may be, but maybe that didn't come out tonight. But I think that's the only thing that really stands out for me at this point in your presentation. But thank you.
Yeah, thanks for lifting that, Nichelle. And I don't need to respond to everything you said, except for to say that you are spot on in terms of your observation there. And that is a huge part of our work this year, is really defining what these things are, what the key features of implementation look like, and how do we measure and monitor that, and how do we know if they work, and if they don't, what do we do differently? So thanks for lifting that, and we'll continue to have that conversation, but please continue to push us in these spaces as well.
And board member Nichols, I would just say that too. When we think about, you know, all the language you just used, transformational, anti-racist, you know, restorative justice, we know those things are really truly a way of being and a way of living and a way of existing. And as our district continues to grow and really leverage to the space that we desire to be, we have to do continued and a lot of work with mindset, definitions, examples, inside, outside work, because they do just become words. And and they can't just be words, they have to come to life, and they have to come to life within our actions. And it takes, again, like I said it earlier on, we've only gone this much since, you know, I've been in the district in one capacity or another since 1971, right? When I was a first grader. And so we have to make sure that if we want it done right, we were doing good work when you were here before in your role. And, you know, things have changed, things have shifted, and we've fallen back a little bit, right? With the pandemic. Now we have to recalibrate and move forward. So it's a process that we're all working together collaboratively in order to make sure that we get there, because I may not get there in my lifetime, but it's not about me. It's about the babies who ain't even here yet. So I just wanted to put that out in the space.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Dr. Hicks, and completely agree. It becomes an embodied practice. It becomes a habit of mind, and we need systems and structures for people to be able to do that meaning making, that deep reflection, that practice and learning in real time. And so I hear where you all are going. I think for me, I just am saying, which I think you were saying, I'm not saying we shouldn't use the big words. I'm just saying what's more important is what's underneath the big words. And let's get clear about that, and please come back to the board and let us know if we're serious about transformational SEL, truly restorative, like those kinds of things are going to take a level of investment that may exceed where we are right now, because you have to be able to bring people continuously into a place of practice and reflection, notice, reflect, like it's not a one and done kind of work. Though these are big commitments we're talking about. So that was really my main point. But thank you, Dr. Hicks, and thank you, Dr. Esser.
Thank you so much, Board Member Nichols. Instead of a round robin, I'll just ask if any board members have any further questions. Oh, Board Member Gomez Schmidt.
Yeah, I just had a quick question on the restorative justice slide. It talks about the district investment of the 1.0 FTE in the project manager. I want to say it was a year ago, 2 years ago, there was also an investment of 1.0 restorative justice coordinator at each high school. Like how do those positions fit in with this project manager position? And I know you said there was a pause put on this or giving us more space to do this. How does that work fit together? And what are we seeing at our high schools?
Board Member Gomez Schmidt, my apologies because my internet paused out for a second. I think you were asking about the 4 coaches at our high schools and an update on that. Is that correct? Okay,
yes,
cool.
exactly. And how it fits in with the project manager position that got added.
Yes. So the start of last school year, we added 4 RJ coaches or coordinators to our high schools, each of our 4 comprehensive high schools. That role continues. Last year, we had a solid start, but frankly, we need to build the systems and structures and routines around meeting with that group, looking at data, being in communication and concert with administration. And so what we're really thinking about is this project manager as a short-term position to really help us take one step back and think through some of those logistical aspects of the work.
In short, systematizing some of the things that we were trying to do each school.
Okay, am I back? I'm so sorry.
You're back.
Okay, it's been just doing these little intermittent spurts. So, oh shoot, though, what was I saying? So the project role really being like what systems we need in place so that we are maximizing the use of our resources in our high schools, and also considering what we need to put in place to manage the work of RJ in our elementary and middle schools as well. So that person really is intended to help us better utilize the resources we have at hand and ensure that we are prioritizing the right action steps in order to get the outcomes we're desiring.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Seeing no other hands, let's move on to our last item, these update on the framework recalibration. Ms. Green.
Thank you so much. Jesse, could you please share the screen? This is going to be just a quick update, but we wanted to continuously provide the board insight into where we are on the recalibration of our strategic framework. So this month, the month of October, we are continuing with some focus group sessions. Those focus group sessions are geared towards, one, our business and industry groups to really understand their perspectives and what they need with MMSD and for MMSD and from MMSD. Also, our parent advocacy group that support our scholars with an IEP. There's a parent group that meets their a connection to our Mad Mamas group, but it's a larger group than that. That is one of the groups we're doing a focus session with. Our Madison Teachers Inc., IEMTI, and the executive team, and then our Foundation for Madison Public Schools. These are kind of the next group. Some of the timeline updates are October 31st. We should receive a next kind of written update in terms of what we've learned so far and where we're going. Then we have an update on January 31st that will also be our superintendent's kind of state of the district time. We'll get another update in March and another update in June in terms of our progress to date. Board Member Castro, I will pause here if there's any questions. Jesse, you could take us off screen share. Thank you.
All right, any questions on this update? Okay, Board Member Nichols.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the update. I think my question is more for Dr. Jenkins. Dr. Jenkins, I know that you have a 120-day plan, and it looked like a really ambitious and very engaging plan to get out and connect with not only our schools, but business leaders, community partners, et cetera. And while you're doing your rotation and rounds out here with the 120-day plan, the board also approved work with 4 a.m. Consulting, right? To do some of their analysis, their input, and helping to find themes and patterns that would lead towards the recalibration. I think what I'm curious about is how is the work that Dr. McKinney, DeRoyston and Dr. Alicia I should have started saying their names, the whole 4 a.m. consulting group. How is that work and kind of their analysis and input going to come together with all the things that you're hearing as you're out? Yeah, I'm just curious because it seems like that will provide a nice array of voice, and just wondering how it will all come together for potentially our next update or not.
It will. It's all going to align. Let me just say that everything we started out with strategic recalibration, and to bring the consultants in is very intentional to get the voices. If you recall, we started out doing the facilitation of that with a small community. We wanted to get a deeper analysis and one that wasn't biased. So we wanted to contract, and I appreciate the board. Really do. We do appreciate you approving them to come in. So as they're talking to various groups, and you just saw those groups up there, those are other groups that they're going to meet with.
Okay.
So we wanted them to go out and get all of the voices to make sure everybody can weigh in on the strategic framework. And that's why it's a recalibration. Our intent is to say what we developed in 2018, is it still relevant? Okay, when I'm going out talking to business partners, people in the community, I'm talking about the same thing. From my perspective though, these goals still relevant post-pandemic. We know that things have happened. What's the feedback? So they're doing the same thing. How is this working for you in terms of this framework that we have? They're gonna come back and give a report to us. I've already had a meeting with one of the consultants about what they heard. They met with you all as well. They met with some staff. We have our training coming up on Wednesday. We all download from that. That's all working in concert. You're right, it's very robust. It's a lot. Inside, outside, we're meeting with a lot of people, because when we come to January 31st, that you saw it up on the board, that's going to be a compilation of us coming back to the board, just like reporting out now and what we're doing, coming back again in November. And that's only going to be a part of it to lead up to that discussion, or to lead up to that state of the district, January the 31st. But we would have heard from them. And then after we get the state of the district, we're not done. You continue to hear us talk about next year, but actually 2040, the students who right now, those students who are entering into our school, they'll be 18, 2040, they'll be 18 years of age, right? From 22 to 2040. And we're working backwards with our plan. All of it's working in concert, and we look forward to keep coming back. We saw like 5 more times, I think it was like board updates on there for you. As we get the data from them, we're gonna calibrate and see, this is what our community is really saying to us. You know, this is what the board members, you all gave your feedback too as well, right? They're honestly coming, talking to us and saying what it is. Then we're gonna take that information and put it forth into our bold vision, for which we hope will we'll work together to lay out a vision for what we want to happen for MMSD over the next 3-5 years, all the way to 2040.
Okay, you know, one of the comments I've heard quite a bit was that when the last framework was developed, it was just that, a framework that had been built with a lot of input sessions, but it was a framework that didn't have kind of an implementation plan developed with it. And that is true, right? And so I think one thing that would be helpful is in your, previous superintendent Jen Cheatham really believed in having a framework, and that the plans to implement sat within departments and within school improvement plans. I'm curious for you as our superintendent, when you think about a recalibrated framework, is it your leadership style to have a framework with the plans sitting somewhere else? Or are you more inclined to have a plan that kind of is more, I don't know, more visible? Or what are you, or you're not sure yet?
No, what I do know is this. First of all, let me say this. I think Dr. Cheatham, for what she did, she laid the groundwork for me to walk in as a superintendent in the middle of a pandemic, have some good basis of work that you've heard the voices of the community. So our team, and I believe, taking those goals that we have, we are now coming back to recalibrate and continue to go. You have to have that framework. Our goal now, because the intent is to build it with the strategies, and those will be public. It's not like, it was very aspirational with the strategic framework, and I believe that you got hit by the pandemic, and then, there was a transition, so maybe you didn't get to the strategies, but there are no strategies. I've talked to MTI, I've talked to the principals, I've talked to people in the community. Everyone says it was very aspirational. We need to be able to come back and establish benchmarks after we recalibrate. And in fact, Board Member Gomez-Smith, we've talked several times about level setting. What should be that benchmark? What do we calibrate on? The best data you have is back to 18 when you start looking at it, because the other data when the pandemic hit is not necessarily good data to use. So when we calibrate, we're going to come back and we're going to have our strategies laid out. Talking about what we're doing this year. This is a runway now that we have to get to the full completion, working with you, working with the community to lay out some of those strategies we're going to have to.
Right. Will anybody from your team be able to potentially share a list of the questions that the consultants are asking folks, just to see kind of, because I actually, they did engage with the board at the last retreat, but I can't remember the questions they asked, and I'm not sure if they might shift the questions depending on the groups that they're talking to.
Yeah, we have the consultants. That's something that I haven't asked them, because I was trying to be with the consultants, not be biased by myself. I didn't give them any suggestions for questions.
Okay.
But the individuals we have, I think you've met them. They're pretty much they're solid individuals, and so, but that doesn't preclude you suggesting something that you really want to know, the board, and for us to be asking that question in the community too. Our main thing was, are those that we have still relevant to the work that we're getting ready to go? You heard an expansive conversation tonight about looking at the various learning paths that we're going to be talking about. So that all of that would be kind of like included in the recalibration.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, may I please get a motion to adjourn?
Moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
We have 2 more items though. I'm just kidding. She's- come on.